One second I'm floating in nothingness. The next I'm face down on a cold floor licking something sweet off my hands like a stray dog. Not my proudest moment, but in my defense, I was freezing and whatever warm goo was covering me was the only thing keeping me from becoming a human popsicle. My body's cold, my hands are sticky, my mind is faint, and I'm shaking so hard I can barely think. I bring my hands to my mouth and lick them clean. Sweet warmth flows down my throat, reinvigorating my body, but it's not enough. An incredible smell and the promise of more warmth drives me forward. My teeth sink into something soft. The sweet, blessed warmth fills my body, finally driving away the cold. I let out a contented sigh. Then awareness properly returns to me, and everything goes to hell. I'm sitting on the cold ground with my eyes closed. The last few minutes are just a blur. I crack my eyes open and immediately get blinded by glaring light. I shade my face with my hands and finally get a look at my surroundings. Red, 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 red everywhere. My body, aside from my hands, is covered in red liquid. So is the floor, and the body on it right in front of me. Not to mention the others. I retch, but my stomach's empty. Not even bile comes out. Love that for me. After a few moments to recover, I do my best to assess the situation. The blinding light is small slices of sunshine peeking through cracks in shutters and thick curtains, landing on the floor a few meters away. I'm in a roughly circular room with a timber floor and stone brick walls, maybe 6 or 7 meters in diameter. But the room isn't important. What's in it catches my attention way more. 6 people laid out in a circle on the floor. A 7th spot in the middle where I must have been before I moved. Countless circles and symbols on the floor, drawn in blood and what looks like gold powder, chalk, and a void black ink. All the bodies have slashed wrists and throats. I can't tell if the wounds were self-inflicted or not. The blood pools toward the inside, but the center is completely clean. I belatedly notice similar wounds on my own body, though no blood flows from them. A small gold and black knife lies near the middle. Next to it, the smashed remains of a small glass bottle. My hands are unnaturally pale, basically pure white, like fresh snow. I sit there uncomprehending for a long while. My mind's in turmoil and I've got a pounding headache. None of this is correct. These aren't my hands. Way too fine and dainty. No calluses from carrying heavy objects. Thin, refined, and bone white. None of the small scars from my childhood or various accidents are there. And that's when the memories hit me. 2 sets of memories crammed into one skull, overlapping like someone shuffled 2 decks of cards together. My childhood memories, happy. Loving parents, good friends, a decently successful school life. Nothing extraordinary but happy. I grew up, went to university, got a job. The later parts are faint, overshadowed by a recent clear picture. A small alley, a shortcut. A man stepping out of a shadowed corner. A knife flashing in the evening light. Pain. Vague impressions of an ambulance. Then darkness. The other memories are foreign. I know I wasn't born into a noble family and yet I remember it all the same, fragmented though it is. Shunned. Sent away. Deep resentment brewing. My breath comes in ragged gasps as I shake myself from the thoughts. What the hell? Assuming I'm not having a mental break, the situation is unfortunately obvious now that I've had some time to think. I died. And then I took over this person's body after whatever crazy thing happened here. Obviously some sort of ritual. I wipe my face with my hands. My hair's full of blood too. Not relevant right now. More critically, what now? I concentrate and try to pull the foreign memories into focus. This body's name was, I don't remember. Great start. Neither can I remember my own name. Slightly more worrying. What I do recall is that he was the son of an important nobleman, shunned from a young age and basically exiled to a backwater town so the family didn't have to deal with him. I don't remember why he was shunned, but that's not the most important thing right now. Quite apparently, even without the memory fragments, the young noble hadn't been content with his lot in life. He tried some sort of freaky ritual that ended up with 6 people dead and me in his body instead of him. Not the greatest success, all things considered. Unless... No, even with how scrambled his memories were, this wasn't what he'd envisioned happening. The mage had claimed this would cure my condition. A memory comes to the front of my mind unbidden. My eyes fall on one of the 6 bodies, notably different because he's wearing flowing robes instead of the plain clothes of the others. Okay, so magic is real in this world. Great. If I wasn't in this terrible situation, that revelation might have actually made me happy. Right now, it only increases my concerns. Like, what exactly was this ritual supposed to accomplish? And more importantly, did it succeed? I have a really bad premonition that I already know the answer. I look down at the small new bloodstains on my hands from where I touched my hair. The sight should have made me uncomfortable. Instead, it rouses my appetite. I stick out my tongue and lick one of the spots. The sweet. Oh no. In front of me lies one of the dead bodies. One I've been refusing to look at. I force myself to do it now. On the person's neck, the existing knife wound has been widened by clear teeth marks. Oh no, no. Shit. The conclusion is as clear as the little bits of daylight illuminating the room. I'm a vampire. Or something similar. Effectively the same thing. More memory fragments slot into place. I had met the mage quite a few years ago. The two got along pretty well, leading to the mage becoming a trusted confidant. When this trusted friend suggested there was a way to get rid of the body's condition, the kid enthusiastically agreed. After a long period of planning, the ritual was performed. A ritual that ended with me inhabiting this body after it had been turned into a vampire. From my scattered recollection, all the people here aside from the mage were prisoners. Less scrutiny if they disappeared. What I can't understand is why the mage himself took part in the ritual. He's lying there with his slit wrists and throat just like the others. There's no way someone would willingly do that if they were in their right mind. On the topic of being in the right mind, I've been nearly hyperventilating ever since I realized my situation. I remember plenty of vampire stories from my previous life. Blood-sucking creatures of the night, generally hated by everyone, with vampire hunters being a common trope. Sunlight was the most common counter. Even if it didn't turn them to ash immediately, it usually weakened them significantly. My eyes snap to the thin shafts of golden light illuminating the room. Mind racing, I consider my options. I have to at least test it, right? I have an urge to try. If it kills me instantly, at least I won't have to live as a monster that feeds on humans. Still, I'm hesitant as I reach my hand out. Apparently, I'm a bit of a hypocrite, unwilling to risk death even if it means becoming something I despise. I steel my mind, squeeze my stinging eyes shut, and thrust my hand forward into the light. It's hot. I can feel my blood start to boil nearly instantly. The pleasant warmth flowing through my veins, that I had barely even noticed until now, is rapidly diminishing. In its place, the cold I vaguely remember spreads. Finally, the growing dread makes me pull my hand back. I crack my eyes open, turn away from the light, and inspect the results. The skin on the fingers that were exposed turned a faint shade of red. That's it. No burns, no ashes. Everything's still intact. Still, some unknown instinct makes it clear that's not the full extent of it. The sheer existential terror I felt just seconds ago assures me something much worse would happen if I was exposed for too long. That peculiar, uncomfortable sensation of my blood boiling away tells me what the limit is. Blood. If I had enough blood, I could survive short exposure to sunlight. But even just a small bit of exposed skin lost me such a large volume of my blood. I suppress a shudder. Are you done trying to kill yourself? I jump to my feet in shock and nearly fall right back down at the unexpected force of the movement. Looking around, there's no sign of where the voice came from. It's deep and raspy and scratchy, like someone who hadn't seen water in 100 years and whose vocal cords were replaced by nails dragging over a chalkboard. Who's there? Show yourself. My voice is also a little rough, so I cough a few times to clear my throat. Over here, you oaf. Don't pretend you've already forgotten me. It won't help you. Hehe. The voice cackles crazily. Looking closer, I realize there's a faint dark fog gathered around the gold-black knife on the ground. It's slowly coalescing into a monochrome face with sharp teeth and two short horns sticking from its forehead. Who are you? I demand, doing my utmost not to be intimidated. Not gonna lie, I wasn't very successful. You think I believe this little act of yours, boy? We have a contract. No amount of fake amnesia is going to get you out of it. According to the terms, I helped you complete your little ritual successfully. Now you owe me your soul. Hehe. More mad cackling. I'm a little lost. A demon or something. And a contract? I never signed anything. Here, check the contract yourself if you want. The demon says between cackles. A floating piece of parchment suddenly appears before me. A small fragment of memory makes me pretty sure I don't want to know what kind of creature the parchment was made from. It's filled with flowing script in a shade of deep red that probably isn't ink. 2 definitely bloody fingerprints are stamped at the bottom. One identical to my own thumbprint, the other a thin, clawed finger. The contract outlines, in rather precise terms, an agreement between an archdemon Melchiodazel and a Lord Kalen Steelheart, son of Duke Aaron Steelheart. The demon agreed to aid in performing a ritual to free the contractee of all mortal disease and grant great power, in return for claiming his soul at the moment of his death to do with as the demon wished. Plus some interesting additional clauses. My new body's name is Kalen. Not that that's the most important part right now. The bigger issue is I never agreed to anything like this. If this is a deal with a demon but I didn't agree to it, as outlined in the contract, I've come to collect your soul, the demon says. If you don't resist, I might leave you intact to act as a puppet for a while. What do you say? I decline your offer. You won't get anything out of me. Your contract is invalid. I already told you, playing dumb won't save you now. This is no mere piece of parchment. That right there is a soul contract, fool. And I can enforce it any time I want. Which is now. With another cackle, the demon stretches out a smoky clawed hand in my direction and pulls at the air. Then we both stare at each other as nothing happens. I let out the breath I'd been holding, trying to ignore the cold sweat on the back of my neck. What did you do? The demon's voice is a sharp hiss, stinging my ears. As I said, your contract is invalid. Even if it wasn't, doesn't it specify you only get to collect upon death? Fool, the ritual involves the death of the performer. I simply never told you. You also didn't ask, naively trusting your dear friend. Gah. Now hand over your soul. Pathetic mortal. That was about what I expected. Both the unstated loophole and the fact the mage was a puppet for the demon. But damn was I glad my intuition about the contract not binding me was correct. You said it's a soul contract, right? Well, I never signed anything of the sort, so you have no hold on my soul. Though you might be able to get your payment from the original. The original? What do you— Wait, you can't mean. What follows is a string of words in a foreign language that are definitely curses. He goes on for quite a while, his little smoky body pacing back and forth in the air. Finally he stops and turns back to me. What's your name? Never mind that. What manner of creature are you? A ghost? Another demon? How dare you interfere in my contract like that? This was my prey. As if I would tell you my name. Do you think I'm stupid? I don't have to tell you anything. I am an archdemon. You must respect me. Must I? Why? You look rather small for an archdemon. Was it smart to antagonize the very real demon in the room with me? Probably not. But I wasn't feeling very cautious with my life still, and there had to be a reason this archdemon entered a contract in the first place instead of just taking Kalen's soul outright. He had to be limited in some way, and even with the razor-sharp teeth and horns, the indistinct smoky body looked pretty non-intimidating. Not to mention he'd only reach about my knee if he wasn't floating. I'm a real archdemon. I demand you pay me the proper respect. Somehow I get the feeling he emphasized the word real a bit too much. I just can't let that opening go. Are you? You don't look like much of an archdemon to me. In fact, I find that claim rather insulting, coming from someone as pathetic-looking as you. What? How dare? I see the exact moment he realizes the implication I've made. If his body wasn't made of black smoke, I'm sure he would have paled. Are you— No, I mean, I didn't mean any disrespect, Your Excellency. The little demon bows deeply, though I can see the conflicting emotions on his face. Wherever did you get the idea I was anyone important? Please, do keep going with your little tirade, it was quite amusing. I'm just a pathetic little mortal, after all. Oh wait, I'm an oaf. A fool even. Your puppet to do with as you please. I'm sure the blood in my hair and everywhere else really helped sell the shark-like grin spreading over my face. Not that I really remembered what it even looked like. The demon's rapidly opening and closing his mouth like a fish. He obviously wants to say many things but doesn't dare. In the end, he settles on asking a question in a barely audible voice. May I go? Since my contract is invalid, there isn't really anything left here for me. If that's okay with you, of course, Your Excellency. I shake my head, my grin widening even further. No, we have many things to discuss. For some reason, the deflated expression on his face amuses me to no end. What do you wish to discuss? I won't raise any more complaints about the mortal's soul. I also humbly apologize for the offense I've caused. Melchiodazel is shaking ever so slightly, almost imperceptible due to his body being made of constantly moving smoke. I give him my best totally not threatening grin. When I said your contract was invalid, I didn't mean the whole thing. After all, it only specified you got Kalen Steelheart's soul. Since I am not him, you obviously don't get my soul. But the other parts must still be kept, right? Melchiodazel nods uncertainly. While it was a soul contract, most of the conditions apply to this body. I gesture at myself, meaning they're still in effect even after you get to claim your payment. It's signed in this body's blood after all. Now, I believe this condition here states you would serve the contractee truthfully and to the best of your ability for 100 years after the ritual is performed. Though it's worded in a way to apply to the body, not the soul. I look him in his trembling eyes. Cleverly worded so that you could claim Kalen Steelheart's soul and then puppet him around, effectively nullifying the whole clause. All while sweetening the deal for poor Kalen, not to mention the implication of you being entirely truthful and helping the best you can even before the ritual. Melchiodazel's eye is twitching, but he's clearly holding himself back from speaking. Since I've inherited Kalen's body, I obviously also inherit all the obligations you had towards it. Meaning you, Melchiodazel the Archdemon, must serve me for the next 100 years. Any objections? Taking a deep breath, the demon's just about to start talking when I cut him off. Also, you really shouldn't oversell your title like that in a contract. It could lead to a contractee disputing your legitimacy. Though I'm sure you could handle the consequences of breaking a soul contract just fine. Of course, I don't actually know the consequences, but it's undoubtedly something nasty just based on the name. The face Melchiodazel pulls just confirms it. After a minute of silently staring at each other, he finally answers, deflated. I will follow the contract's terms and obey you truthfully and to the best of my ability for the next 100 years. I am Melchiodazel, mid-ranking minor demon. That last part is barely a whisper. Good. Now tell me, Mel. Can I call you Mel? What do you know about this ritual you helped me perform? I can see a moment of hesitation, followed by resigned acceptance as he begins talking. The ritual is known as blood ascendance and requires 7 willing participants, one of which is the recipient. It transforms the recipient into a powerful creature known as a vampire. He says the word like it's foreign. It was unknown to Kalen, at least, based on what I can piece together from his memories. They're pulling together more over time but still chaotic. I already knew that. Get to the actual effects. Alright, your new body is immortal in the sense that you will never age and are very hard to kill conventionally. You're immune to all mundane and most magical diseases. You can drink the blood of other creatures to heal or empower yourself. In general, you're more powerful, stronger, faster, those sorts of things. That's all I know. I narrow my eyes at him. What about drawbacks? Oh, the book? You burn in the sunlight, and the power of the gods will easily harm you. And maybe a few others that I don't remember. That last sentence is barely mumbled out. Where did you learn of this ritual? It seems a bit beyond what someone like you should be capable of. Pure speculation, of course, but he wasn't giving the most competent impression. Mel gives me an affronted look but still answers. I read it in a book I borrowed from. I ask, getting impatient with his hesitancy. An archdemon, he practically squeaks. Not a very pleasant noise with his already uncomfortable, scratchy voice. No wonder this guy dared to pretend to be an archdemon himself. If his ritual was sourced from one, that would definitely lend a lot of credibility. I didn't quite get the chance to read the whole thing, so my knowledge is limited, he admits. But I fully memorized the ritual since that was the most important part. Mortals just love the benefits with their short lifespan, especially if the only price is their soul on death if the ritual makes them ageless. They all think it's a loophole. So you've done this before? What happened to that vampire? This is important information, whether there are likely to be many vampires running around, or more importantly many vampire hunters. Yes, I've had 2 contracts like this before. One had his house burned down with him in it in the middle of the day, and the other got eaten by a wyvern because I picked the wrong cave to shelter from the sun in. Neither puppet lasted more than a week. Wow, you really have terrible luck. I feel like laughing, especially with the sour face the demon's pulling. Still, it wasn't really funny. No matter how pathetic he might look, this guy still tricked at least 2 people into giving up their souls to him. Not to mention the 12 other sacrifices needed to perform the 2 rituals. On to more pressing matters. Do you have any plan how to deal with this situation? If you wanted to use Kalen as a puppet, you must have had an idea how to not immediately get him killed. I gesture at the dead bodies and blood strewn about. I was just going to wait until nightfall and then leave through the window. I had my previous puppet place some wards that will stop anyone from checking on this tower until then. You can't be serious. What do you mean, master? You know this guy is a noble, right? Yes. And you were going to just throw away all of that and turn yourself into a fugitive on purpose? Do you see how stupid that is? What do I care if this mortal is a noble? He has no real power anyway. Not to mention it was annoying enough to keep up the pretenses when using my mage puppet. I sigh in frustration and drag my hands down my face. You have got to be joking. Wow, I can see why you are just a minor demon. I ignore the indignant look. Do you have the power to remove all traces of this ritual, including the bodies? No. Useless. What can you do? I can possess mortals with weak minds. Anything else requires me to make a contract with them so I can have more impact on the physical world and actually manifest. In my defense, I am just a minor demon. I could swear he's pouting. You are forbidden from making any new contracts while serving me. Can you at least hide yourself appropriately? The pout's becoming more noticeable. I am quite confident in my hiding capabilities. Though it would be even better if you'd allow me into your body. Absolutely not. TCH. Worth a try. So long as I don't influence anything in the world, nobody should be able to detect me. Actually, just no mortal. Some higher beings can detect me no matter what. Like other demons of at least high rank, dragons and celestials. He says the word like he's spitting on the ground. The only way I can avoid them is by returning to the abyss. Though that would mean I couldn't return here for quite a while. Define quite a while. At least a week or 2 here, though more likely a month or more. It varies. Do you leave traces or residues on anything in this world that can be detected or traced? If I possess a body, it's detectable with the right tools or magic, yes. Also, anyone I have a soul contract with may have traces of demonic presence on their soul that are detectable. These both linger a while after I've left. Oh, and the knife. Okay, good to know. Now, can you reanimate that puppet of yours for a short moment? Reanimate? The mortal's soul is long gone. I just need the body to move. Can you do that or not? Oh yes, I can move it for a short period. No more than a few minutes at most though. Dead bodies are much worse hosts than living ones. What do you need it for? The effort will strain me considerably. I have a plan. Listen carefully. After explaining my idea, I add, after you do that, I order you to return to the abyss and return when exactly 1 month has passed here. On returning, do not make contact with me directly, but remain at the edge of the city lord's estate until I call for you by name. You are also forbidden from revealing any information about me to anyone. Understood. Mel nods. Then get to it. Time to extricate myself from this precarious situation. It takes a while for the maid to muster the courage needed to investigate the commotion in the Lord's personal quarters. After all, they'd been instructed not to enter the tower today. Still, she can't ignore the Lord's voice screaming in what can only be pain. It's one thing to disregard instructions, but another thing entirely to ignore her Lord and have him be hurt or killed when she could have done something. The first would likely lead to disciplinary action, but the latter could get her executed. The Steelhearts weren't known as a very merciful family. They rather lived up to the name, not that she'd ever dare say that out loud. She cracks the door open a little and immediately loses her grip on it in shock. It swings wider, revealing the room in its entirety. Blood. Blood everywhere. The Lord's third-floor tower study has been transformed into a nightmarish scene. Terrible bloody symbols all over the floor. And the dead bodies. The poor maid doubles over and empties her stomach in the entryway. When she recovers a little, she hears a weak, cracked voice calling out for aid. To the side of the room, two bodies are entangled in death. But one of them is still alive. Even in his current state, she recognizes the Lord's voice. She rushes over, avoiding the worst of the blood and bodies. Lord Steelheart, what happened? How can I help? She rushes out with barely a breath between words. Get me away from this crazy person, the Lord commands. She recognizes the second body the mage Lord Steelheart was friendly with. He'd fallen on top of the Lord, dead from multiple jagged cuts to his arms and throat. He's still holding an ominous knife with a golden-black blade, embedded in the floor only a short distance from Lord Steelheart's neck. Despite the surrounding blood, the knife's blade is clean, pristine even. She carefully pushes the dead body aside and sees the mage's face and mouth are covered in fresh blood. Lord Steelheart has his arms bound behind his back with thick rope. The Lord stumbles upright with her help but sways dangerously. He's covered in knife wounds, though his are shallow and not immediately deadly. "Gee, get me out of here," he commands, his voice still cracked and having lost much of its usual arrogant tone. "And untie me." Try as she might, the rope doesn't budge, so she focuses on making sure the Lord doesn't stumble as she guides him down the stairs. She doesn't dare touch the ominous knife. As they walk, she glances at him from the corner of her eyes. He looks just as unnatural as always, though the blood matting his hair and staining his clothes really doesn't help. His face is surprisingly free of blood, just a few small spatters from the dead mage. Although, why does she feel he's somehow more handsome than she remembered? She quickly shakes that thought from her mind. When they reach the bottom of the tower's spiral stairs and exit onto the roofed path to the main building, she spots a patrol of 2 guards nearby. After she calls out, they rush over, faces full of concern. There was some kind of attack or something. In the study, Lord Steelheart is wounded. We need to get him to the healer as soon as possible. No. Both of you protect me. What if I'm attacked again? I will not be murdered because of your curiosity. Also, hurry up and get these bindings off my hands. My voice is barely a croak, but all 3 of them hurry to obey. One of the guards uses his knife to cut my hands free, careful not to touch my skin with the blade. Harming a nobleman could potentially see him executed, after all. This one in particular wasn't very lenient. They escort me to the infirmary as quickly as possible. It takes longer than they'd like since they have to avoid parts of the manor exposed to direct sunlight due to my condition. My skin has been delicate since birth, after all. On the way we encounter more scattered guards and servants, all thrown into frantic disarray by the state of my health. The healer's already informed and ready when we arrive, though there's not too much he can do. He's a simple mundane doctor, no magical ability. Not that the Steelheart family couldn't afford magical healers, they employ over a dozen. No, Kalen Steelheart simply didn't receive an assigned healer from the family, nor the funds to hire one himself. Besides cleaning, dressing, and bandaging the wounds and feeding me an herbal mix to boost recovery, all that can be done is helping me into a bed and monitoring my status. Fortunately, the wounds are relatively minor. I lost a significant amount of blood, but no vital organs were damaged. All the cuts are just skin deep. If I'm lucky, The doctor states, I might even get out of it without noticeable scarring. For now, though, it's time for me to rest. I awake in the late evening. I can tell because the window is open and I'm not currently being turned into charred vampire jerky. Oh, and because it's dark outside, but that's just a small detail. The maid who opened said window crosses eyes with me when she turns around. She freezes as I examine her from where I've sat up in bed. Dark brown hair tied into a short ponytail, average height and build. A plain dress with some evidence of patching. Pale blue eyes framed by a rather unremarkable face, aside from a small scar under her chin. The color reminds me of the daylight sky on a clear day. I frown at the thought. I'll probably never be able to go outside during the day ever again. No, I'll find a way to deal with it. Were parasols a thing in this world? Would they work for me? Seeing my expression, the maid snaps out of her stupor and bows. I pretend not to see the slight tremble of her hands. I'm glad that you've woken, my lord. Is there anything I can do for you? You were the one who found me earlier, right? What is your name? I do my best to imitate the tone I remember Kaelin using with servants. Yes, that's correct. My name is Mia, my lord. She still bowed, eyes fixed on the floor. How long have I been out for? Just a few hours, lord. The sun has just set. The healer told me to air the room, now that the light isn't a threat to your skin. She falters and claps her hands over her mouth, paling. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. Her bow deepens so much I can barely see her face. To say I'm confused would be an understatement. What about my skin? Why was that such a sensitive topic that this maid fears punishment just for mentioning it? I raise my hands and look at them, still basically pure white. In fact, my hands are paler than the bandages wrapped around my forearms. Could it be? Bring me a mirror. With a panicked, of course, immediately, the girl practically races from the room. She very nearly slams the door on the way out, but stops it just in time. As I wait, I pinch a few strands of my hair and pull them in front of my face. About shoulder length, also pure white. I'm pretty sure my suspicions are correct now. Only a few minutes later, Mia runs back in, a portable mirror held tightly in her arms. Unlike her earlier haste, the steps approaching my bedside are hesitant. When I behold myself in the mirror, I'm certain my suspicion is correct. Staring back at me is a face almost entirely devoid of color. Pale white skin, hair, even eyebrows and eyelashes. The only exceptions are the pale red lips and the eyes. Like the lips, my irises are red, the color of blood. Kaelin Steelheart was, by all appearances, an albino. How ironic that he became a vampire. Or should I say it was fitting, since aside from lacking black hair, this was basically the stereotypical vampire look already. If it wasn't for the sense of familiarity from his memories upon seeing the reflection, I would have thought this was a result of the vampire transformation. But a lot of things now click into place. The family shunning him, the condition he hoped to be cured of by a magical ritual. His skin being a sensitive subject. The group that brought me to this room took extra care to avoid sunlight. Also, the same memories reveal Kaelin's hatred of his own reflection. No mirrors were present in his personal quarters, nor anywhere he was likely to pass. He'd rarely left his tower in the last year or so. Actually, wait a minute. Why can I see myself in a mirror? Commonly, a trait of fictional vampires was their lack of reflection. I hadn't even considered that when asking for a mirror. The lack of this weakness is convenient, but it raises the question of what other things I knew about vampires that might be false. A quick check reveals I do also have a shadow. Good to know. Only now do I realize the only source of light in the room is a single candle. But I can see just fine. Not all too surprising to have night vision as a vampire. But I'll need to be careful not to reveal just how well I can see. That candle's awfully bright. Staring at it hurts my eyes, so I tear my gaze away. My eyes land on Mia, who's anxiously trying not to stare at me. This close, I can smell her. The warm blood rushing through her veins. Hear the life-giving beat of her heart. It smells appetizing, inviting. After a moment, I notice I've leaned forward. I clear my throat. You may go. Send the doctor in with something for me to wear. And bring some water so I can get the rest of this blood out of my hair. With frantic nodding, Mia Speed walks out of the room. The doctor enters carrying an oil lantern. Short, wiry man, wearing a robe with short sleeves and small round glasses made of slightly milky glass held by a wire rim. Mostly bald with a few wisps of gray hair and a neatly trimmed goatee. Good evening, Lord Steelheart. It gladdens me to see you regain consciousness so soon. He gives me a shallow bow, then moves to my side. His left thumb has a thick scar, like he almost lost half of it to a jagged cut that didn't heal cleanly. After about half a minute of feeling my pulse, he sets about switching my bandages. These cuts will take a while longer to heal, of course, but they've scabbed over nicely. With proper care, an infection is unlikely. Please keep the agitation of the wounds to a minimum over the next few days. His work done, the doctor, what's his name again, looks me over. Once you feel ready, both your steward and the guard captain wish to have a word with you about the situation. Oh right, his name is Theo, or Theodore. Theodore? Something like that. It shows some of Kalen's character that he couldn't properly remember the name of someone who'd been at his side for nearly a decade. His personal doctor, at that. Mia comes back with a large copper water basin and a stack of cloth. A second maid carries the stand for the basin and quickly vacates. I don't miss the short, betrayed look Mia gives her fleeing colleague. The doctor instructs Mia on how to dress me. Careful with the sleeves and the neckline so it doesn't touch the bandages. Then he leaves. Now it's just Mia and me. She lays out clothes from the bundle on the table. When she's done and runs out of reasonable ways to delay by shuffling things around, she turns to me. Do you wish for me to help you dress and wash up, my lord? This question is actually harder to answer than I'd like. I'm perfectly capable of dressing myself. Mia also looks distinctly uncomfortable. I really want to spare her the trouble. On the other hand, my memory's piecing itself together slowly and I don't remember everything. But a general trend is incredibly obvious. Kalen wasn't a good person. He wasn't in the habit of randomly killing servants on a whim. Mainly because he didn't have that many, not out of any sense of morality. But he did often lash out violently when in a bad mood. Kalen Steelheart was almost always in a bad mood. Aside from physical punishment, he took his resentment out on others in more despicable ways. Thankfully for my continued sanity, these memories were incredibly faint since he was usually drunk. It had also been a few years, but Kalen had on at least one occasion assaulted a maid in his employ. I wasn't aware of the exact extent, but it was terrible either way. That demonic ritual couldn't have targeted a better guy. Actually, that definitely isn't true. Wow, this place is messed up. More relevant to my current situation, I have to avoid displaying drastic changes to my personality. Almost dying gives me some leeway, but I really need to not make people suspect demonic possession or anything remotely similar. And Kalen Steelheart was a full-on snobby noble who obviously never did something as mundane as dressing himself. How to play this? Oh, that would work. I sighed. Then I put on my best noble face and tone. Bring all those things over here, I command, gesturing at the clothes. At my insistence, Mia moves all the options and lays them on the blanket at the foot end of the bed. Good. Now go over to the corner and don't look at me. I can't be seen in this state. I make a dismissing motion. Something even stronger than Kalen's laziness was his pride and arrogance. When the maids moved to the far corner and staring at it so intently you'd think it held some great mystery, I slowly get up. I'm naked under the sheets, my previous clothes having been thoroughly soaked in blood. Standing upright, I realize I'm surprisingly tall. I hadn't noticed before since I'd been surrounded by corpses at first and then been hunched over while being rescued. I now see I stand almost half a head taller than Mia. My body's rather thin. Very little definition in my chest or abdomen. Somehow, even without a mirror at hand, I still get the impression I don't look bad though. My face, when I saw it a few minutes ago, was also undeniably handsome. It takes a moment to put on the slightly unfamiliar clothes while being careful of my wounds. I have to hold back though, since I'm actually far less hurt than everyone thinks. For one, I don't actually suffer from blood loss. My body currently contains more blood than was normal for a human. Somehow, I can tell I'm far from full though. Drinking more blood is very much possible. Appealing, too, to a part of me I'd rather not listen to. When I'm finally properly dressed in simple dark pants and a fancy pale shirt with long wide sleeves, I speak to Mia again. You, wash my hair. The maid flinches as though struck and then turns around at a speed so slow it would have made the real Kaylin actually strike her. She tries to hide it, but I notice the small sigh of relief when she sees me fully clothed. I collapse into the one chair in the room with my back turned to the girl. She quickly moves the basin into position behind me and begins gently washing my hair as I lean my head back. I have to admit this is pleasant. The water's warm and Mia uses a soap with a mild floral scent. Having someone caress my head and run their fingers through my hair is nice. As much as I despise the context, I want to repeat something like this. It's very easy to get whatever I want now. I frown at the thought. My moment of blissfully ignoring the circumstances is broken. It gets worse when Mia notices my expression before I correct it and begins profusely apologizing. I wave her concerns aside and instruct her to dry my hair. The way she carefully rubs my head with the towel is as if I'm made of glass. This will take a while. Time I can use to consider my priorities. I was never a very materialistic person before. Sure, having money was nice, but I didn't indulge in extravagance in my last life. The most expensive things I did were occasional vacations with my family. There's another thought that makes me carefully suppress a frown. I have to accept the facts. In all likelihood, I'm never going to see my family or friends ever again. The pain is slightly dulled by the foreign memories mixed with my own, but I'm nevertheless filled with a deep emptiness. I just close my eyes for a while, keeping the tears at bay. After a few quiet, shaky breaths, I continue my thoughts. Worry about the here and now. Kaylin's position in his family is not stable. Or should I say, it's stably at the very bottom. According to the memories, he'd turned 22 this year. He'd been sent to this backwater town when he was just 13. Out of sight, out of mind. His father couldn't bear to look at him. Aside from the albinism clearly seen as a curse or supernatural sign, Kaylin's mother had been his father's favorite concubine. Predictably, she died shortly after childbirth. As if the boy wasn't already enough of a bad omen. Still, his father's lingering affection for his mother was likely the reason he was even still alive. Well, until he killed himself by a stupid demonic ritual. I can just see the legitimate heirs and their mothers using this to attack me once they hear of it. There's no chance in hell that this manor isn't packed full of spies for his other family members. I need to take control of the narrative before it's too late. What are my actual goals, though? I want to live a happy and healthy life, but that's the most basic of goals. I need to prevent people finding out my vampire status at all costs. Same with not being Kaylin's original soul. The demon contract too, obviously. Build my own power base so I'm not dependent on a family that hates me. Find out the limits of being a vampire, especially with respect to feeding. Did only human blood work? Was it necessarily lethal? Did I turn whomever I fed on? The useless demon hadn't had the time to learn any of this with his previous vampires. Maybe while I'm at it, improve living conditions for people under my rule. I always thought vampire rulers who terrorized their populace were stupid. That just leads to being overthrown by an angry mob or some hero finding out and purging the idiot. If I'm really unaging now, I'll have a lot of time to come up with more things I want later. Assuming I survive the current situation, not to mention whatever schemes my family cooks up. Succession conflicts had likely already begun. Duke Steelheart wasn't the youngest man anymore, and he had quite a few children. Mia's stopped drying my hair by now and is fidgeting in place behind me, not daring to interrupt my contemplation. I sit up and turn in my chair to look at her. From my faint memories, this girl's from the local town. She must have started last year based on how little Kaylin had seen of her. I don't know much else about her, but the chance of her being one of the spies is rather low. Even if she is, I could deal with that. For now, I just need someone. How would you like to be promoted? Promoted, my lord? She squeaks. I'm in need of a personal attendant. You fit the requirements. Do I have a choice in the matter? She mumbles, looking away. Wow, this girl was really lucky I took over Kaylin's body. That would have definitely warranted a beating in his mind. It comes with a pay raise. Think of it as my reward for your aid earlier at noon. I begin giving my new, slightly reluctant personal attendant some instructions. When I slowly walk into the manor's ground floor study, both the steward and guard captain are already waiting. They both get up to greet me. I'm leaning on a cane with Mia supporting my weight from the side. I have to act as though I'm still weak after all. Steward William is an old man, though his body's in good shape. Still has all his hair, gray and cut short and neat. An equally neat beard frames his face. He wears something surprisingly similar to a fancy butler suit. William was pretty obviously sent by Kaelin's father to keep an eye on him. On the other side stands Sir Lars, captain of my manor's guards. The only knight present in a backwater place like this. Tall, broad-shouldered, muscular, blonde hair cut short for efficiency rather than style. Numerous scars adorn his face and arms. His eyes are mostly gray with a hint of blue. His tan skin reveals long hours in the outdoor training yard, unlike the pale William. Or my own skin, obviously. Lars' allegiance isn't clear from Kaelin's memories. My predecessor suspected him to be another plant by his father. Though Lars isn't wearing armor, there's still a sword hanging by his side. His stance is guarded. Both men bow slightly. Young Master Kaelin, it is heartening to see you able to walk so soon. The steward greets me with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Lars grunts his agreement. About the incident, what? I want that tower burned to the ground. I interrupt the old man as I sit down in the fancy chair behind the desk. Please calm down. Burned. To the ground. I repeat, glaring at William, who's taken a seat again after I did. Lars keeps standing. I must ask what happened, young master. Please answer. You must realize the situation does not look good. The family might even use this as an excuse to harm you. The old man holds my gaze. After a minute of tense silence, I let out an annoyed sigh. Isn't it obvious? That bastard Lonar attacked and tried to kill me. I thought he was my friend, but it was all a trick. You're saying Mage Lonar was responsible? According to the report I received, he died, along with 5 others. Prisoners that I hear were removed from their cells on your order. You're overreaching, steward. I'm doing my duty to you and the family. Another short staring match later. I sigh again, massaging the bridge of my nose. Fine, I'll explain what happened. You better listen closely. I'm not repeating myself for you. William answers my glare with a curt nod. It was that traitor Lonar. He claimed he'd found a method, a secret ritual that could cure my condition. I didn't quite believe him at first. You, of all people, should know I've tried countless methods before. Indeed, Kaelin had tried everything from obscure folk remedies to divine healing by various priests. Obviously none worked. I decided to try it since Lonar had been reliable for years. I even thought of him as a friend. What a fool I was. He was nothing but a traitorous snake. I punctuate my exclamation by slamming my fist onto the table, then wince in pain and cradle my bandaged arm. Anyway, he set up the ritual, even tricking me into getting those criminal scum for him. Then, when we were all in my tower study, that crazy bastard started cutting them open. He had that golden knife, it was surrounded by a black smoke. Then he bound and cut me too. Obviously not as badly as those other guys, but still. Both men are frowning, though I can't tell whether in disbelief or sympathy. Mia is pretending she isn't there. Lastly, that madman cut himself. But that wasn't the worst part, no. He didn't really react to his throat being slit. That smoke around the knife formed into a face and started talking to me. The frowns intensify a lot. Mia's rapidly paling in the background. It was some kind of demon or something. It offered me a deal. My soul in return for absolute power, wealth, and perfect health, or some crazy shit like that. A little fudging of the facts, but not too much. Both men want to ask a lot of questions, but only William speaks, his face and tone grave. Did you accept the offer? Answer honestly, young master. Lars adjusts his stance a little, trying to hide getting ready to attack at a moment's notice. Interestingly, I can't tell whether he's aiming at me or William. Of course I refused. I'm not giving away my noble soul to some dirty demon. Do you have any proof of that? William obviously doesn't believe me. He's starting to get on my nerves, though that's probably caused by Kalen's memories. He never liked his steward. Not that he really liked anyone. The only person he was actually friendly with was a demon's puppet that led to his death. Lars' target is becoming more obvious. For some reason, he's readying to strike at the old steward instead of me. I try to send Lars subtle signals to stop, though I'm not sure he notices or cares. It should be completely obvious. Do I look like I was cured? Obviously not. I say with a bitter face. I was tempted. I'll admit. But I realized this might be a scheme by someone in the family to eliminate me, besides the deal itself being fishy. Again, I'm not giving my soul away. Ah! Steward William leans back a little, taking in my appearance. You indeed don't look cured. Please forgive my suspicion, young master. I can tell that's not the end yet. No matter what he says to me, what's really important is what he reports to the family. The demon didn't take the rejection well, so he shouted something about claiming my soul in another way and then ordered Lonar to kill me. It appears that bastard was some kind of puppet. I switched to a nervous whisper. I think he was already dead. As if I'm worried about being watched, I look around. Something must have gone wrong, though, since that guy didn't succeed in killing me after all. After I barely dodged a few stabs, he just kind of collapsed. Then that demon started cursing and yelling stuff like, "This isn't over," and "I'll claim your soul yet," or something, before disappearing. Shortly after that was when the maid found me. A moment of silence. I take a deep breath, then continue. As I said, I want that tower burned to the ground, with all the bodies still in it. Also, don't let anyone touch anything in that room. I'm not taking any chances with that demon. William frowns, then turns to Lars. Did any of the guards disturb the room when they checked it? If what young Master Kalen said is true, then we need to call a priest. No, not just any priest. A specialized demon hunter. Lars frowns as well, though more at the second part. It's obvious William doesn't believe me and isn't planning to call these demon hunters out of concern for my safety. I wrote the report. Didn't touch anything when I checked. Lars' tone implies that was a given. I've also had guards posted outside the tower ever since. Good thinking, Lars, I praise. And I actually agree with that old man for once. Send a message to the nearest large temple to send demon hunters here immediately. Both men and Mia look at me in surprise. Then William smiles and nods. His eyes hold some amount of ridicule. At once, young master, is there anything else before I go? You still need to rest and recover. I rub my chin. It feels unfamiliar without the short beard I'd had in my previous life. Oh right, I decided to reward this maid, Madeline or something, for her service. She will be my personal attendant from now on. Handle it for me. My name is Mia, my lord. Mia interjects in a quiet voice. I barely hear her. That's what I said. Who allowed you to speak? Anyway. She flinches back at my retort. This girl isn't a bad actress. She's acting, right? I really hope so. I've already given her some instructions, after all. You can go do your job. Lars, stay. I need to instruct you about that tower. I wave William away. Young master, you can't burn the tower down before the demon hunters have a chance to inspect it. William insists. Who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? I just mean that they would definitely suspect you if you destroyed any evidence, young master. Also, they probably couldn't find that demon that way. It might threaten your safety again. That old man was apparently pretty good at handling Kalen. That would have actually convinced him if he was still alive. Fine, fine. Now go. With a bow, the steward leaves. No doubt to inform his handler in addition to calling for demon hunters. He'd also definitely try to manipulate it so whoever was sent was more likely to suspect me. When he's gone, I turn to a slightly nervous Lars. I inspect him for a while without saying anything. Then I smile at him. Who do you work for, Lars? Based on the baffled look that flashes over his face. That was not remotely what he'd expected. He composes himself quickly, though. I work for you, of course, Lord. He bows respectfully. I knew you would say that. We both know that's not really true, though, is it? I used to think you were my father's man, but now I have my doubts. Why else would you almost take that poor old steward's head off like that? A conflicted look quickly replaces the surprise. He's obviously considering denying everything but decides against it with a sigh. In my memories, Lars wasn't well-versed in subterfuge. More of the direct sort. I do work for your father, His Excellency Duke Steelheart. But, he hesitates again. Before being assigned to guard you, I was Lady Marianne's bodyguard. My true mission is to protect you, including from hostile actors in the family. That steward used to be loyal to your father, but lately, he has been acting weirdly. Lady Marianne, that's Kaelin's mother's name. He'd obviously never met her since she died soon after his birth, but he knew her name. Not that he thought highly of her. Kaelin's disdain for others, especially commoners, included his own mother. She used to be just an escort before becoming the Duke's concubine. That, her death, and the fact his father cared for her deeply were basically all he knew about her. I'm pretty sure the real Kaelin would have reacted poorly to learning of this. He blamed his mother for a lot of his problems due to her dirty blood. It was understandable that Lars didn't want to reveal his involvement with her. However, I wasn't him. I didn't have any issues with a woman I'd never met. Especially since she probably didn't live a great life based on my knowledge of noble society. To be honest, I'd be surprised if the death after childbirth wasn't a cover for some sort of poisoning or other accident. If you will forgive me the overreach, I doubt that man's allegiance. I believe he is conspiring to harm you, though I don't have any proof. Lars gives me a worried look. What an earnest fellow. I smile at him. I know. I used to not see the signs, but this incident has really opened my eyes. He must be planning to tamper with the evidence to make the demon hunters suspect you, my lord. Maybe he's a little too earnest. Those demon hunters would definitely be against me from the start. There's no way any amount of evidence would sway them either way. Still, I have some time to prepare. The nearest city with a large enough temple is about 2 days on horseback away. You said you have already posted guards outside the tower? How many? 2, my lord. Increase them to at least 4. Use your most trusted men. No one is to enter or leave that place without me present. Yes, my lord. Now, do you have a way to contact my father? He should receive a true account of the incident. We don't know what that snake of a steward might tell the family behind my back. I will see to it at once, my lord. Lars salutes by hitting his chest with his fist. Good. Be discreet. I don't want this message to be intercepted. Understand? He nods. Get to it, then. You are dismissed. With a bow, Lars leaves. Now it's just Mia and me. Now then, your part has come. Do you remember what I told those 2 happened? Yes, my lord. Good. As I said earlier, I want you to secretly spread the contents of our discussion as a rumor. How I was attacked by a demon and that demon hunters are coming soon. Can you do that? Mia swallows under my gaze, then nods. Now, before that, I need you to perform a service for me in secret. Don't look at me like that. That's not what I meant. I massage my forehead. You have family in the town, correct? Mia, still slightly blushing, nods with an uncertain look. I have 2 younger siblings. My mother is ill, so I'm the main provider for them. I ponder the new information. Being a maid at the Lord's Manor did pay pretty well for around here. I could work with that. You'll go into town. The official reason is that you're visiting your family to bring them the advance payment I've given you for your new position. Your actual mission will be to deliver 2 letters I'm going to write. One addressed to the local priest and the other to the blacksmith. This has to happen in absolute secrecy, you understand? Though I can see the slight confusion at what I'm planning. The girl still smiles at the mention of seeing her family. After that, return here and spend the night in the normal servants' quarters as usual. Don't forget to use the opportunity to discreetly spread some rumors. We will speak more on your new duties in the morning. When I'm done explaining, I write and seal my 2 letters, then hand Mia some coins I found in Kaelin's desk. With that, I send her off. A few minutes after the slightly disheveled maid leaves, the steward enters. "Are you finished with your new personal attendant, young master?" The look on his face disgusts me. Worst of all, I have to play along to avoid suspicion. "Yes. I am quite satisfied with her service. Now inform the cook that I am hungry. Also, prepare my room in the manor proper. I'm not sleeping in the infirmary, much less that cursed tower. Couldn't go back to a place that might incriminate me further. Nor was the relatively lacking privacy in the infirmary good enough. Time to enjoy one of the perks of being a noble that would hopefully not leave a bad taste in my mouth. Literally or figuratively. I sit on the bed in my room after dinner. The results are mixed. Good news, I can still eat normal food without adverse effects. My sense of taste is even amplified, so the simple food slapped together by the sleepy chef was pretty good. Bad news, it doesn't make me feel satiated. Sure, I feel full, but that's just the physical space in my stomach. I'm still hungry. It's a paradoxical feeling. Looks like only blood will satisfy me now. I sigh. I got a pretty significant amount of blood from the dead ritual sacrifices. I can feel it coursing through my veins. The first bit had been sweet, but when I worked on my deception to get away with the whole ritual thing, I drank from the other bodies as well. It was bland, like tasteless food you ate just to fill your stomach. I lost a not insignificant amount of blood on my way to the infirmary to keep up the illusion of being badly wounded. Still, there should be at least twice the normal amount of blood a human normally has in my body somehow. It's a little hard to judge by feeling alone, and there's no way I'd empty it all out just to measure. All that being said, I'm starting to grow hungry. I can only hope it has to do with the blood being from dead bodies and isn't the normal rate I'd have to feed. It would be very hard to hide it if I snacked on a person every 2 days or so. Well, for now, I have a few hours of free time to test my new body. I was still supposed to be resting and healing, but there's no way I could sleep. A mix of the earlier nap and excitement keeps me up. Also, I really need to know what I can do before I accidentally let something slip in front of other people. First of all, something I've already experienced. I can heal at an incredible pace. My original wounds were much worse than what Mia got to see. This healing consumes a little blood to operate at full capacity, though it's still faster than normal even without it. In fact, I'm actively holding it back so I don't have a miraculous healing that would invite unwanted questions. I'm unsure about the exact limits. Could severed limbs be regrown? What about reattaching the original ones? How about destroyed organs? I don't know. There's no way I'd try any of those out. Until I get evidence to the contrary, I'll operate under the assumption all of those things are impossible. If that turns out to be false, then it'll be a welcome surprise. I also already know I'm stronger than before. I'd almost face-planted from using too much force a few times while moving things around in the tower. Kalen hadn't been the most athletic guy, so this is a change I'll have to carefully hide. From my pocket, I take a small copper coin. I hold it between my thumb and index finger and squeeze. The copper bends until I'm left with what could pass as a weird pasta shape. It doesn't fold in half perfectly. The top and bottom middle are touching, while the sides are still partially open. So, very strong then. The coin was soft, but that was still metal. I placed the bent coin back in my pocket. Now, for an appearance change. I already confirmed I have both a reflection and a shadow, but the mirror also showed I didn't have any obvious fangs. Which is weird, since I distinctly remember ripping that body's throat out in a way my normal teeth would struggle with. The memory makes me shudder. Worse than the feeling was just how good it had tasted. Thinking back to the vague sense of my body at the time, I'm sure there was a change. Something like, I can feel my top canines elongating. By touch inspection, they appear to at least double in length, also becoming sharper. They're rather cumbersome to have in my mouth. I almost cut my lip when I'm not careful. Luckily, the process is easy to reverse. If, when it comes to feeding on a living being, these fangs would be useful. For now, I'm happy with my normal teeth. After a little focus, I realize I can transform my fingernails in a similar way. They grow into short, sharp claws. I don't really have anything to test them on right now, so I'll return to them later. Just like the fangs, the claws return to normal easily. In time, both these transformations could likely become second nature. For now, something else occupies my awareness. I just felt someone walk past outside my room. The subconscious at first, but when I notice, I become aware of a few unusual sensory inputs. All my senses are heightened. My hearing, smell, taste, even my touch is more sensitive. What I'm experiencing now is different. I can clearly hear the person's heartbeat through the wall, even as their footsteps are almost inaudible. It's so clear I get the illusion of being able to see the heart. The smell of their blood is also unnaturally obvious. Even so, I can tell they aren't bleeding. What I smell is the blood still inside their veins. Spilled blood smells different. It's just something I know now. Frowning slightly, I do my best to place this specific blood smell. I faintly remember it from earlier today. It's not any of the three people I've interacted with most: Mia, William, or Lars. No, this is someone else. I remember now. The maid that helped bring in the wash basin. Somehow, even though I'd noticed the smell of people's blood earlier, I had missed the heartbeats until now. Still, this is an immensely useful ability. If I can hear the pace of someone's heart, I can easily tell if they're relaxed or stressed. What's the range on this supernatural sense? I close my eyes and focus only on my hearing. It takes a while, but I become more and more aware of people's positions in the manor. It seems unaffected, or at most minimally affected, by walls or other obstructions. The detection becomes increasingly imprecise at longer ranges. My best guess for maximum distance is about a few dozen meters. At that distance, even normal speech would be hard to make out, so this is highly impressive. I can even hear the calm hearts of various maids and servants sleeping in their separate building, and multiple pairs of guards patrolling the grounds. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of concentration to expand my awareness this far. When I reopen my eyes, I'm back to only hearing a few rooms away. Now that I've noticed the heartbeats, they're actually pretty distracting. I block them out as best I can for now. My eyes are another problem. Kalen's albinism means photosensitivity, and the vampire transformation made it worse instead of better. I've got massively enhanced vision to go along with my other boosted senses. I can see in the dark, even tell colors somehow, probably magic. But bright light is even more unbearable than before. Even without the whole burning in sunlight issue, going outside during the day would be agony. I need parasols, veils, long sleeves. I'll look like the most obvious vampire in history. Great. After an hour of experimentation, including the disturbing discovery that I can roll my eyes so far back I go completely blind, the only thing that helps even a little is squinting. It severely restricts my field of view, but it works. Barely. As for supernatural abilities beyond the physical enhancements, my arsenal is pretty limited. No magic blood control, no shadow powers, no bat transformation, no mist form. I can't confirm any charm ability. Turning humans is a mystery. Feeding mechanics are a mystery. Every answer leads to more questions. I need to test feeding soon. My preferred target would be an animal. I'm apprehensive about harming another human. That really only leaves one option for help: Mia. She has family in town, a sick mother. Maybe I can leverage that. My conscience is prickling at basically emotionally blackmailing a person, but I don't have much of a choice. Either I figure out my new condition, or I might one day wake up as a berserk, bloodthirsty monster. For now, I'll wait for morning. Also, I need to get my hands on an animal without being weird about it. Morning finally arrives. Weird thought for a vampire. Of course, the first hints of daylight on the horizon make me quickly close and curtain the window in dread. I'll have to move to a different room. One without a window, maybe underground. Still, it's time to act. With a smile, I notice a heartbeat pumping blood with a particular smell approaching my door. Apparently Mia took my instruction to speak more in the morning very seriously. The sun hasn't even begun crossing the horizon, and here she is, slightly out of breath from rushing over. The girl's breath catches when I open the door right as she arrives. She only stares at me in shock for a brief moment before sweeping into a deep bow. She's wearing a fancier getup than yesterday. I assume it's the steward's doing. After looking her up and down a few seconds, I release the poor girl from her growing anxious embarrassment. Good morning, Mia. You may rise. I pretend not to see the slight bit of red that's crept onto her face and ears. Come on in, we have some things to discuss. After she follows me in and I close the door, I realize my mistake. My room is pitch black with thick curtains blocking out any light. The girl's standing in the middle, totally blind. Oops. With some feigned shuffling in the dark on my part, I head over to the desk which holds a lantern. It takes some actual fumbling to piece together how to operate the thing. It looks like some kind of oil lamp with a round frosted glass chamber, but it's apparently a magical instrument. One of two Kalen owned before the incident, probably the individually most expensive items in the manor. Following Kalen's faint memories, I twist a knob and a uniform pale yellow light spills forth. I keep it at a level that's comfortable enough for my eyes. Now no longer blind, the maid looks a little less scared. I gesture to the only chair next to the desk. Go ahead and sit. This might be a longer discussion. There's only one chair, so I consider where to sit myself. The bed seems like it might send the wrong message. With an amused smirk, I decide on my perch. A quick sweep sends various knickknacks aside as I plop myself down on the desk. My legs swing back and forth lazily. After taking in the scene for another few seconds, I break the awkward silence. How was the visit to your family? Startled at the unexpected question, Mia takes a moment to answer. It was nice. I hadn't been outside in a few weeks. Thank you for allowing me to see them, even if only as cover for the letters. Did you deliver the letters? Of course. I even had to force the old blacksmith out of bed at that hour. She begins almost insulted at the question to her competence before she realizes how she sounded and shrinks back. Good job. I hope they both agreed. This time I only get a nod back. I stroke my chin, half expecting a beard that doesn't exist. So far, so good. How is your mother doing? Somehow that question blindsides Mia again. She is doing slightly better. My wages barely covered what my family needed to live, so her recovery has been hindered. Though the bonus you gave me should help, Lord. She rushes the last part, as if to ward off punishment for criticizing the working conditions in my employ. I smile at her. Relax. I'm not here to hurt or punish you, especially not for something you didn't do wrong. Do you understand? Although she nods, I can hear Mia's heart rate is only going up. Take a deep breath. This isn't a formal setting. As long as you answer my questions honestly, I won't hold it against you if you say things you think might offend me. The only thing that would annoy me is if you avoid answering or lie to protect my precious feelings. Takes a minute or so of deep breaths until I'm not worried the girl will keel over from a heart attack. Good. Now why don't you tell me about your mother's illness? A look of pain flashes over Mia's face. She has the wasting cough. It wasn't too bad in the beginning, but we were always short of money after my father died, so it got worse. When she couldn't work anymore, the only way to keep food on the table was for me to come work as a maid. Still, the medicine she would need is expensive. We can barely afford to eat in the first place. I suspect Mother has been giving part of her portions to my siblings. She denies it when I ask her, but I can see tears in the corner of her eyes. The healer said she might recover even without medicine if she has enough to eat and plenty of time to rest. But she keeps getting worse. At the rate it's going, she won't survive the winter. Mia's voice drops to barely a whisper. Some more explanations later, I learn that the wasting cough is somewhat similar to pneumonia, likely an infection of the lung. Survivable, and there's a medicine to cure it, but it's out of the price range for most commoners. Secretly, I'm happy about the revelation, though I feel guilty once I realize it. The problem being curable with money is very good news for me. It's also obviously good for Mia and her family, though my guilt isn't assuaged much by that fact. I have good news for you. I will pay for your mother to receive proper treatment, under a few conditions. Mia clenches her fists and sets her jaw, but I can clearly see the spark of hope in her eyes. First, swear before the gods you will keep any and all of my secrets unless I explicitly allow you to reveal them. She swears it without a second's hesitation. Her posture indicates she's waiting for me to share the real price. My second condition: be less overly formal when we're in a private setting like this. I order you to speak your mind, even if you think it might offend me. That's it for conditions. The dumbfounded look really reveals just how bad Mia's image of Kaylin was. Still, she agrees. Excellent. Now, why do you think I called you here? Mia clearly doesn't want to answer, biting her lip. Still, she eventually speaks. You want to sleep with me. There's no other reason you'd make a nobody like me your personal attendant. I don't get why you would help my family like that, but maybe you do have a conscience. The mortified look she sends me immediately after clamping her mouth shut reveals she obviously thinks she said too much. I can't help it. I burst out laughing. I quickly notice the effect it's having, but it takes nearly half a minute until I have myself under control. The poor girl's shaking. I hop down from the desk and put a hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry for laughing like that and scaring you. I was just glad you actually listened and were willing to speak your mind. I'm a man of my word. I'm not mad at you for saying the truth. I'm only smiling pleasantly now. She relaxes ever so slightly. I get the impression she eases up a bit more on seeing my smile. Her heart slows from its rapid beat. While I can understand why you'd think it, you were wrong about why I called you here. I actually want you to be my personal attendant, a confidant even. Our relationship would be off to a terrible start if I used my power to take advantage of you. Wouldn't it? With a lost, confused look, Mia nods. I want total transparency. If you think I'm making a mistake, tell me. If you don't understand something, ask. If something makes you uncomfortable, point it out. Starting right now. What are you thinking? Takes a moment for the girl to get her thoughts in order. Why me? I'm just a nobody. Surely there are better people for the position. You rushed to help me even though you were afraid of disobeying orders. Also, I'm pretty certain you're neither a spy for my family nor affiliated with demons. You're also not stupid, which I appreciate. Is this why you brought up my family? To threaten me with their safety. Now it's my turn to be surprised. When did I give the impression I was threatening your family? If it wasn't clear, I am not. Even if you don't want to be my confidant, I won't hurt them. The only real condition was that you keep any secrets I share with you to yourself. Recently, I got an involuntary lesson in trust and loyalty. When I was at my most vulnerable, no one was there to help me. I survived by pure luck. What I was doing before, the way I isolated myself and acted towards others, clearly didn't work. Instead, I now believe I need to build proper, good relations. Those need strong foundations. If I didn't help your family, how would you do your work properly if you were distracted worrying all the time? I take a deep breath. Mia's taking my explanation surprisingly well. That's not to say your family will be absolutely safe. In fact, you working with me is likely to put them at greater risk. I'm certain I have enemies. Not just external ones like the demon's followers, but also others in my family. They might see your family as a weakness of mine. If you're worried about this, you can still decide to leave. I haven't told you anything sensitive yet. However, once you become privy to my secrets, you cannot leave. Think it over. She does. Not very long though. Can you promise me to protect my family if I work for you? I can't guarantee perfect safety. However, I will do everything in my means to ensure all who ally with me are as protected as possible. Is that good enough? With those conditions, I agree to work with you. I lock eyes with her, my expression serious. Are you absolutely certain? I wasn't kidding when I said you can't leave once you're in. Mia's face is resolute. A hint of that defiant attitude surfaces again. At this point, you're just insulting me. I've already thought it through. If you keep your word, I will be your confidant. Excellent. You will be assigned a new room near mine. Keep the exact nature of your service to me a secret as far as possible. Obscurity is your best shield for now. On to your new job. I lean forward. Imagine for a moment that a person you've worked with, someone you trusted and thought you were close with, turned out to be a monster in disguise. The girl's face lights up in realization. Now your life is in shambles, you nearly died. And there's a good chance your former associate has allies among the people surrounding you. Not to mention you belong to a family that would love to get rid of you if possible. What would you do? Is this about the demon attack? No. This is about a totally hypothetical scenario with absolutely no basis in reality. I roll my eyes with a smile. Of course it's about the demon. Well, if I was in this totally imaginary situation, I'd try to gather people unlikely to be traitors as allies. Also, I'd do my best to contact important, influential people that are unlikely to be in on the conspiracy, like a duke who might be sympathetic, or the priest of the small local temple who can still reach out to larger temples in other places. I smile at the look of realization on Mia's face. Seems I've picked well. She's probably uneducated due to her circumstances, but that doesn't mean she's not quick-witted. Then her face pales. Wait, you said there are other demon followers? Do you know who they are? Are you in danger? Am I? Wait. Those demon hunters are coming. Does the steward know about these hidden followers? Is he in on it? My smile widens. I don't have any evidence on who does or doesn't belong to the demon. However, seeing how long the infiltration has been ongoing, I consider it basically impossible that the demon didn't plant at least a few more agents. As to the steward, I'd say it's guaranteed that the demon hunters won't be as advertised. Though that's more likely my family's doing. We lock eyes again. There are some things I can't tell you for your or my safety, but I will do my best not to lie to you. For now, I need her to work as my personal attendant as expected. I'll give her the evening off for satisfactory service. She can visit her family again, then pick up what I ordered from the smith. She'll move into her new room tonight. She also mentions the smith wanted more payment than I included. I wave it off. I already expected as much. Then I add that in addition to the public pretense work, I'll need her help with some secret testing. A look of concern flashes over her face. I may have discovered some beneficial things from my ordeal. Don't worry, I was serious about not being a demon. My soul is still firmly my own. The nod I get is slower than before. Hesitant. Anyway, can you cook? I'm developing some paranoia due to recent events and will only allow my personal attendant to handle my food from now on. My haughty tone is ever so slightly undercut by the wink I send Mia's way. Turns out that Mia can cook. We're in the manor's kitchen, having chased the confused cook out of his domain. Mia's flipping pancakes on the wood-fired stove while I lean on a counter and have a staring contest with a chicken. The pancakes are nothing fancy, though I'm slightly surprised to see them. I just hadn't expected them when considering possible medieval breakfast food. The chicken sits in a small cage on a table. I'd requested the animal, ostensibly because I wanted to eat it. Well, it's true in a way. This chicken staring at me was planned to be served for lunch. Of course, my actual plan is to test multiple vampire-related questions. First, I can feel the bird's heartbeat. It's not particularly agitated, obviously used to interacting with people. Also, it's definitely not actually staring at me, but at the handful of seeds I'm holding. Its blood smells unassuming. Mia's blood is overpowering the scent. Needless to say, the chicken smells much less appetizing. Not bad, just bland? The actual questions I want to test are twofold: whether I can drink animal blood to feed myself, and what happens if someone drinks my blood. Depending on the outcome, this kitchen might witness the first ever vampire chicken. I smile at the silly thought. The solution to feeding the chicken my blood is simple. I lightly cut my finger on a quickly shifted claw when Mia's sufficiently distracted and let a few drops of blood mix with the seeds. The wound's gone within a second. Oblivious to its potential ascension into a foul creature of the night, the chicken happily pecked away at the offered food. I watch with bated breath. Nothing happens for a while. I even task Mia with cutting some fruit to buy more time. Then there's a change. I can't quite grasp what exactly changed, but I feel something. After a little concentrated introspection, I notice there's a sort of connection between the chicken and me. Once I find it, it grows in my awareness. The process reminds me of an itch that only really begins once noticed. Experimentally, I pull at the connection. The sensation's weird, but I'm quickly distracted by the results. Totally disregarding the remaining seeds, the chicken fixes its eyes on me. The feeling of the connection changes to alert. Belatedly, I realize that what I'm feeling might be the chicken's mind. It's weird. If this really is its mind, there isn't much going on behind those eyes. I've heard chickens could sometimes survive a while with their heads cut off, but now I believe it. Was this a master-servant bond? Or something else? Sit, I command the chicken mentally. No reaction. I try again. Sit. This time I do my best to picture a sitting chicken together with the command. It sits. Is this really some kind of master-servant bond? How would it work with a human? Or a more intelligent animal? Does simply ingesting some of my blood force someone to obey me? The thought is chilling. If that's indeed how it works, I have to be very careful how I use it. I don't consider myself a saint, but mind control is a very slippery slope. Especially if it's permanent. Looks like you get to live a little longer, Miss Chicken. Only till noon, though. You've been staring at this chicken for a few minutes now. Have you never seen one before? Amusement is evident in Mia's voice. I jerk upright, almost falling over due to the unfamiliar strength. Whoa, careful. No need to be embarrassed. I'm sure the chicken hasn't seen a noble before, either. I'm done preparing your meal, my lord. The amusement is growing. I grumble a little under my breath. At least she's taking my command to be less formal seriously. Though there are clear signs of stress under the surface like the elevated heart rate. I've changed my mind. I want to eat chicken for dinner instead of lunch. Also, I'll be inviting Lars to dine with me, so please arrange for a second chicken. Same rules as this one. I want to be present for the butchering. Mia nods and carries a tray with the food into the dining room. Her smile is replaced by a mask of perfect professionalism once we step out of the kitchen. Next to the table stands someone I don't want to see this early in the morning. Good morning, young master. It is good to see you up so early despite your injuries. Steward William greets me. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. I suppress a groan. Good morning. If you don't mind, I want to eat breakfast without interference. I wave him away. The motion might have resembled one used to shoo a pesky fly. He doesn't leave, just stands to the side instead. I sit down with my breakfast, pancakes, cut fruit, drizzled with liquid honey. They smell pretty good. Mila, cut my food. Command. Of course, my lord. Also, my name is Mia. Isn't that what I said? Hey, old man, that's what I said, right? You said Mila, young master. William is not amused. I'm sure I said whatever the correct name was. I stab a piece of pancake loaded with fruit and honey. I hold it out to Mia. Here, try it to make extra sure there isn't any poison. Can't be too sure with that demon prowling around. Mia's frozen in surprise for a moment, then hastily grabs the food when the honey starts dripping onto the table. I can see her professional mask crack as she chews. A delighted smile appears for a split second before she gets her face under control. Luckily, the steward's positioned where he can't see it. Like that, I eat breakfast. Every once in a while, I order Mia to test for poison. I even offer a few bites to the grumpy old man, but he refuses. When just bits of honey are left on the plate, I let out a contented sigh. I consider licking the plate clean but realize it would be unlike the persona I'm currently playing. You're decent at cooking, at least. As I promised, if you do a good job later, I'll give you some time off. Though you'll have to be back by night. I put on the most wretched smile I can manage. Kalen's face conforms with uncomfortable ease. The steward clears his throat. I received a reply from the demon hunters I contacted. They will arrive in 2 days. Please remember that you can't have the tower burned down until they've had time to inspect it. Fine, stop nagging me, old man. Is that all? For now, yes, young master. You really interrupted my breakfast just for that? Whatever. Organize a room for my personal attendant adjacent to mine. It will be done. The man's bow almost hides the distasteful look on his face. When he's gone, I lean back and sigh. 2 days, huh? It's enough time. Hopefully, at least. I give Mia changed instructions. Pick up my order from the blacksmith and pay the man. Bring the priest with her when she returns. Pretend he was worried after hearing a rumor about the demon, if necessary. After following Mia's heartbeat on her way out of the manor, I stand up and pace back and forth in the dining room for a few minutes before heading back to my room. There isn't much I can do right now. I need to wait for Mia to return. Lars had hopefully already contacted my father. New plan, find Lars. Walking through the manor during the morning is weird. It's dark, for one. Kalen Steelheart had ordered it so. Windows I pass are at the very least shuttered. Some are additionally covered by heavy curtains. Convenient for me, since I don't need to dance around patches of deadly light. I follow Kalen's memories of where Lars is likely to be found, then realize my mistake. What would I do if he was actually training outside? I turn around and go back to pick up the parasol. Defensive implement in hand, I run into a servant cleaning a hallway. Well, I follow the sound of his heartbeat to find him. After the man bows, I ask him where Lars is. He doesn't know but sprints off to find someone who does. Soon, 2 guards join him. Both salute me with fists over their hearts. Sir Lars has been guarding the outlying tower since before dawn, my lord. He should still be there. If you wish, we can escort you there. After pondering for a moment, I nod. Good idea. I can't be too careful these days. Lead the way. To the servant I add, you are dismissed. Good work. All 3 are startled by the uncharacteristic praise. I set off in the direction of the tower I entered this ill-fated body in not so long ago. Nearing the destination, we reach a double door leading outside. One of the men pulls half the thick wooden door open. It's blinding. The dim illumination in the manor corridors didn't prepare me in the slightest. The sun's still rising, light coming sideways into the walkway. Seeing the ground lit up by the morning sun fills me with dread. Shielding my eyes with a hand, I turn to the man who opened the door. I'm not going out there. Do you want me to get a sunburn? Go get Lars. I will speak to him here. To his credit, the soldier hides his brief moment of disdain well. Especially with the light at his back, I almost don't catch it. Still, he's unbelievably lucky Kalen's dead. He jogs the few meters to where Lars is guarding the tower's door with 4 others. A salute and a few words later, Lars jogs over to me. Good job on the security. When I instructed you to assign guards, I didn't expect you to do it yourself. You did say to use my most trusted men, he chuckles. If you want something done right and all that, what can I do for you? The steward told me he already received a reply. The demon hunters are coming in 2 days. Lars frowns at that. That's very fast. He obviously didn't use a rider. I agree. So, I need to know, have you received a reply yet? I have not, though I know my message has arrived already. He raises a hand to forestall my question. Don't ask. I can't tell you how. If or when we get a message back is entirely up to the Duke. I sigh a little. That would have been too convenient. Are you certain your message was not intercepted? Anyone who could tamper with the method I was provided would be a danger even to the Duke himself, so I'm confident it arrived intact. I cannot guarantee that the Duke was the one to receive it on the other end, however. Not the most reassuring answer. I have absolutely no idea about the allegiances of Duke Steelheart's close circle. Before I forget, you are officially invited to dinner, Sir Lars. Now, I need you to accompany me for a while, since I'm expecting a guest shortly. With that, I drag a startled knight to the manor's main meeting room. I sit in a surprisingly comfortable plush chair at the head of a meeting table. Lars stands at attention to my side and slightly behind me. He's wearing chainmail today. I can smell the oil he used to keep it from rusting. Not that it manages to cover the scent of his blood. Of all the blood I've smelled so far, Lars is definitely the most appetizing. I can almost taste the rich sweetness. But it's more than that, almost like a complex mix of spices melted together. Hunger is increasing my sensitivity to the smell. In addition to the smell, I can also sense the knight's heartbeat. That's not surprising, but his heart feels somehow more impactful, like it has more bass, an understated, calm beat that nonetheless projects strength. Some intuition is warning me. This man is dangerous to me. I can't explain how exactly, but I know it. Unfortunately, that doesn't suppress the smell. No, it enhances it, as if harder prey would taste even better. Saliva gathers in my mouth. I'm broken from my increasingly dangerous train of thought by a piercing pain in my lower lip. My fangs had extended without me noticing and I'd bitten myself. An accident, but I welcome it. Keeps me from accidentally doing or revealing something stupid. I'm intensely grateful for Lars' position without a view of my face. Lucky I can easily heal the small punctures. How strong are you, Lars? If my question surprises him, he doesn't show it. Despite my ongoing training, I am merely a low-ranking knight. Without meaning to brag, any non-knight who managed to defeat me would have to use underhanded tricks and traps. Or they'd have to be unbelievably skilled with their weapon. I'm confident in putting up a good fight against anyone classified as a low-ranking knight like me. I wouldn't necessarily win, but at worst the fight would be fairly even. Anything higher than that and I would, at best, be able to stall a little and maybe escape with my life. Lars stretches his body. I notice his lean muscles, belying the power I know must lie within. As for mages, he preempts my unasked next question. I cannot give myself good chances of surviving, never mind winning. He concealed his powers well, but I am certain your former friend would have been able to kill me handily. There isn't much I can do against a prepared mage with even a minimal level of combat spells. The only way I'd stand a chance is if I was already at a range I could strike before they can react. By now, the stare is almost a glare. His eyes are piercing. Are they more gray than before? Barely any blue visible. In short, you should be glad your traitor mage died. If he survived with a grudge against you or was still under the demon's sway, there would be next to nothing I could do to save you. I nod slowly. Good information to have. Basically, don't mess with mages without a good plan. What about demon hunters? We both know it'll likely come to a confrontation if they've been bought off. Lars scratches his stubble. Good question. I don't really know how strong they are, though they'll likely have multiple ranks in their organization, similar to how knights are categorized. Many of them are probably knights in their own right, but I've heard they use a lot of esoteric tools and methods, so it's hard to say. If they aren't real demon hunters, the estimation is completely off as well, especially if they're special agents hired by the steward. He knows my approximate strength and would have taken it into account, so I recommend you don't expect any miracles. I feel a familiar heartbeat enter the manor, accompanied by a new one. Switching the topic, I pull out a copper coin. Can you bend this coin? Sure. But why? A confused look graces Lars' face before he catches the tossed coin. With a shrug, he holds the coin between forefinger and thumb and squeezes. The coin bends similarly to when I did it, maybe a bit easier. The knight flicks the coin back at me. After fumbling to catch it, I appreciate the bent piece of metal. There's a knock. After a shouted enter, the door opens to reveal two people. Mia stands, slightly breathless, next to a winded man wearing plain robes adorned by a wide sash woven from many differently colored threads. Short, messy brown hair, quite average besides that. His heart's beating rapidly from rushing but isn't otherwise notable. The priest's blood smells appetizing, but not noticeably more than Mia's. Lars' blood is overpowering both of them. Kalen didn't know the man's name. Luckily, Mia is smart. My lord, I have brought Priest Tristan as you ordered. She bows. I wave them in. Welcome, welcome. I thank you for responding in such a timely manner. Please have a seat. After falling into a chair and catching his breath, the rather young priest speaks. Indeed, I came at your request. What help can I provide? Your letter mentioned a demon. I'm afraid that is beyond my abilities. I am just a humble. Yes, I called you here because of the demonic attempt on my life. Don't worry, though, the demon has already fled the manor. You're needed for something else. The man breathes a sigh of relief. After Mia leaves and returns with a tray of cups and a teapot, I get past small talk and to business. I require of you several things. First, please determine if any demonic corruption lingers on my person. That is within the powers granted to me, thankfully. Please wait a moment. The priest entwines his fingers and murmurs under his breath. Even with my enhanced hearing, I can't make out what he says. A minute of almost silence later, Tristan reopens his eyes. Unlike the unassuming brown from before, they shift with vibrant, iridescent hues. I could swear the colorful threads of his sash shimmer in tune with the changing colors. His gaze seems to pierce right through me. His entire demeanor shifts subtly. I don't think he notices. The man inspects me for a moment, then lets out a relieved sigh, only to frown immediately after. If I may, could you show me your arms? I push my sleeves up to reveal my bandages. As you can see, I was wounded by the demon's traitor puppet. Same on my neck. With a muttered "I see." Tristan carefully touches one of the bandages with an outstretched finger, only to immediately pull it back as though burned. He looks me in the eyes. I have good and bad news. The good news is your soul is free from the demon's touch. Unfortunately, the wounds on your neck and arms bear slight traces of corruption. When you were attacked, was any type of distinctive implement used? The cuts were made with a weird gold-black knife. I had a bad feeling about it back then. Are you saying it was a corrupted tool? Indeed, that knife must be an object of power the demon created for whatever purpose it had in mind. Is it still where you were attacked? Since the demon was only a shadowy form with the death of its puppet, the knife should still be there. Unless it was stolen after I was rescued. I turned to Lars. When I investigated the scene, there was indeed a black and gold knife, as you describe. Since then, the tower has been under guard, so it should still be there. Good, good. Tristan nods with relief. Have you informed the demon hunters? They should be able to safely handle such an object. My steward tells me he informed the demon hunters yesterday night and has already received an answer. They'll be arriving in 2 days. That's good. I can only pray this ends without any more people falling victim to the demon's schemes. There's the slight issue of said steward likely being an agent for a hostile party in my family, set to eliminate me. Say, do you have much knowledge on demon hunters, especially how easy it is to trick, bribe, or even impersonate them? For reasons totally unrelated to my previous statement. Impersonating a demon hunter would not end well for the perpetrator if discovered. The temple takes these matters very seriously. As for bribes or tricks, they're supposed to be incorruptible. Not just against demonic corruption, but the mundane, worldly kind as well. I unfortunately don't possess any direct experience with their order to confirm or deny this. I cross my arms, a contemplative frown on my face. The second thing I require from you is to contact the largest nearby temple and request for actual demon hunters to be sent here. It would be best if they arrived within 2 days, if you get my meaning. Tristan nods. I will do this. If your suspicion is correct and your steward is conspiring with real or fake demon hunters to frame you, this should help. I thank you for that, by the way. I add, looking at the priest's still shimmering eyes. How long does that spell of yours last? It is a blessing, not a spell. And for a few more minutes, why? Please also check over Sir Lars here, the captain of my guard. I do not suspect him, but Shorty is still better. Oh, and while you're at it, my personal attendant as well. Lars doesn't even blink at being tested like this. Mia was forewarned, so she also stays calm. It only takes a minute for Tristan to confirm they're both clean. Great. That gives me some peace of mind. My third request, then, would it be possible to purge the demonic corruption, and ideally also heal my wounds while you're at it? Tristan ponders for a moment, then nods. I believe I can achieve this. It's only a trace of corruption. Normally the temple demands a donation in return for healing, since it's strenuous on the priest. However, due to the nature of this case, I'll help you for free. Purging corruption is one of our highest tenets. After all, please hold still. The priest intertwines his fingers to pray again. This time, faint rainbow-hued light floats around his hands. The colors slowly fade until mainly greens, silvery whites, and golds remain, interspersed with the occasional wisp of blues and reds. His blessing manifested, Tristan unravels the bandages on my left arm, revealing the scabbed cuts underneath. At first he swipes and grasps at the air above my arm, as though waving away smoke. Then he wipes along the wounds, leaving unbroken skin behind. His touch feels unusually soft and tender. My test on interacting with holy power is partially successful. The greens, whites, and rarer colors don't cause me any issue beyond a little itching. But anytime a golden-hued part of the hand-shrouding halo touches me, I get a similar reaction to sunlight exposure. In other words, my blood starts rapidly boiling away in my veins and I immediately develop an aggressive sunburn. I can't help it. I wince and draw away. What's wrong? Did I touch a sensitive part? Wait, what's wrong with your skin? By now, I've completely pulled away from the priest. Patches of skin on my arm are peeling off. Everyone else in the room is understandably concerned. I notice Lars' hand resting on the pommel of his sword. Mia's frowning while looking at my red skin. My skin. I've been sensitive to light since I was born. That golden light, it must be similar to sunlight, only more intense. Even I don't get sunburns this quickly. Ah! Some tension leaves the priest's frame. I must admit, a lot of different possibilities crossed my mind just now. From something as benign as a bad reaction of the purged corruption with my healing to such extremes as you somehow actually being a hidden demon. Please forgive me for forgetting the obvious answer. Tristan bows deeply. Especially since I reminded you of your unfortunate condition, I really must apologize. I will do my best to reformulate my prayers so they do not draw from gods of light, the sun, and other related domains. Before that, though, I'll quickly dispel the remaining corruption. As he says, Tristan removes the corruption from my neck and right arm before canceling his blessing and praying for a new one. His hands are engulfed in primarily green and silvery light instead, which has no issues restoring me to peak condition. Even the sunburn vanishes without a trace. Of course, all this could have been possible with my own healing, but this way creates way fewer questions. I thank you for the healing, Priest Tristan. Aside from you aiding me in 2 days if required, I would ask a last service from you. Mia, if you would. Nodding, Mia unveils a cloth-wrapped package on the table. Inside is a small golden pendant, shaped like a stylized half-sun. An arch with spiky triangular sunbeams attached to a flat line as its base. The design isn't uncommon for religious trinkets, aside from one major difference. Normally, the chain would be anchored at the tip of the highest sunbeam, so it resembled a rising sun when worn. Instead, this version has the attachment under the base, creating the image of a midday sun that's half obscured. It also looks a little like a closed eye with stylized eyelashes to me. Please bless this pendant for me. I need something to ward off the demon when it comes back. Tristan studies the design for a long while. Are you sure about this? I nod. Then, would you like me to invoke any particular gods? I was thinking of Noctin, Lady of the Twin Moons. Due to the circumstances of my birth, I am denied the sun's caress, so moonlight is the only form of celestial light I may freely enjoy. Though I won't turn down any other gods who are willing to bless me, as long as they aren't sun-aligned, of course. You know that silver would be a more fitting material for this, right? But all right, I will perform the ceremony. May it keep you safe from demons and the misguided faithful. Afterwards, Priest Tristan leaves to recover from the strain, with a promise to send his message and return in 2 days. Part 1 of my plan is a success. I'm playing around with my new pendant. Lars has returned to guarding the tower. To my delight, the blessed object only mildly irritates my skin, like handling silver coins. The pendant gained a slight iridescent quality after the ceremony, predominantly silvery white with a red streak. I suspect at least one blood-associated god took an interest. I chose Noctin because her domain didn't burn me and her associated power was healing, useful for deception. Also, she's a relaxed minor goddess. I don't want to wake up one night to the moon smiting me. I hang the pendant around my neck, well visible. A few minutes later, Mia knocks on my room's door. I've been able to not only feel her heartbeat from far away, but I smelled the girl when she was still 2 bends in the corridor away. My mouth is watering. We've only been apart for a short moment. Why is it suddenly so bad? It takes active effort not to extend my fangs. When I have myself a little better under control, I open the door. Mia stands there, mirror in hand. I usher her in. For the second time today, she steps into my pitch-black room and stands there, Lost. Ah, I forgot the lamp again. My brain isn't working properly. The enclosed space is worsening the smell. I take a deep breath. Have I been breathing the past few minutes? I can't remember. It's not important. I'm hungry. There's a meal right there. It happens before I even realize it. One moment, Mia's turning her head back and forth in the dark. A slightly anxious look on her face, mouth opening to say something. The next, I have a tasty meal pinned against the wall by the door. The look on its face is a delightfully shocked one. Weak little mortal arms try to push me away. Useless. I will feast in the all-encompassing dark. My fangs extend. Something shatters with a loud crash. The mirror. Mia was holding the mirror and she let it go. I'm shocked back to awareness. A new smell fills my nostrils, clogs my throat. Fresh blood. Spilled blood. I hastily back away. The chair I hit doesn't survive the collision with the far wall and breaks apart. Clumsily, I manage to turn on the lamp. I overdo it with the brightness and burn my retinas. Furiously blinking the tears away, I lower the light to a more reasonable level. At least my healing restores my vision quickly. Mia's still standing, frozen, next to the door. Shattered pieces of mirrored glass lie at her feet. One pierced her foot. I bite my lip to maintain focus over the smell. Mia's brain seems to finally unfreeze. Tears well in her eyes as she does her best not to collapse into the pile of shards. I move over to help her and she jerks away, blubbering something unintelligible. No words form, even though I really want to say something. Looking down, I lock eyes with my reflection in the mirror shards. The image of myself appears slightly transparent. My fangs are still partially extended. My face looks like I'm snarling. I sit down on the floor and try to gather myself. Deep breaths. In. Takes a few minutes, but I finally regain some control over my body. Mia's been steadily bleeding from her foot the entire time. The poor girl's huddled up in the corner of the room, shaking. Her face grows pale from blood loss in addition to the fear. Heart in her chest beating a furious pace. Once I reorganize myself, I slowly stand up. Are you okay? I'm sorry about what happened. Though I try my best to be calm and soothing, my voice comes out scratchy. The girl jolts out of her stupor. Looking around, she fixes her eyes on the shards of glass on the ground. Ah, I'm sorry. I dropped the mirror. I'll clean it up right away. Mia's tone is incredibly unnatural, almost cheerful. Her eyes are unfocused, dilated. She jumps to her feet, only to almost faceplant when she puts pressure on her injured foot and it buckles. It appears she hadn't even really felt the pain before that. Too much adrenaline. I jump forward to catch her. Thankfully, I have myself well enough under control by now to push back against the gnawing emptiness in my body. When did my stock of blood get so low? My veins weren't even full now. Nothing at all like the twice normal human amount of blood just a few hours ago. Ignoring my diminished state, I place Mia back on her feet and let go. I'm sorry about what happened. I really am. But you need to get your foot treated before you lose any more blood. Before I can't hold back a second time, the thought intrudes, but I manage to keep it from my lips. Even now, the growing puddle on the floor tempts me to lap it up like a dog. Mia's eyes fall on her foot for the first time. Realization dawns on her face, the vacant look finally fading. Fresh tears well in her eyes and her face contorts in pain. Do you need help? I could call for the doctor. Part of me would rather not bring attention to this, but I'd prefer not playing with Mia's life any more than I already did by accident. Mia shakes her head. After making sure the floor is clear, she sits down and takes a closer look at the wound. Acting with surprising focus, she tears a wide strip of cloth from her sleeve. Then, taking a deep breath, she gently pulls the shard from her flesh. Though she winces in pain, she manages to keep her hand steady. Once the obstruction is removed, Mia bandages her foot. I watch silently until she's placed a tight knot on the fabric. Then her eyes snap up to meet mine where I lean against the wall on the opposite side of the room, trying my very best not to fidget. I'm very sorry I interrupted your fun with my mistake. Her tone is so flat, the mirror would have looked positively bumpy in comparison. Before shattering, obviously. Well, I guess I can't accidentally drop anything else now. What are you waiting for? Takes a moment to gather my thoughts. Mia obviously has a misunderstanding of what just almost happened. That's convenient for me, but it's not great for any amount of trust between us. You're mistaken about what happened. I'm sorry for scaring you, and that you got hurt. Don't worry about the mirror. I misunderstood. Did I? Mia's voice cracks and she chuckles hoarsely. What exactly do you claim then you were about to do to me? After pushing me up against the wall in the dark without warning? Will you pretend it's something harmless? So much for me being your confidant, I guess. Was it all an act? She doesn't even sound accusing, more disappointed. Like something she'd half expected all along came true. Her attitude skewed. Even with what little rapport we'd built up before, gone to waste now. Acting in such a way towards a noble was unusual and dangerous. She might still be in shock, I realize. The fading adrenaline rush leaving her uninhibited and a bit loopy. There might be a way I could play this without revealing my secret. Tell her it was supposed to be something relatively benign. Like a kiss, maybe? But I'm certain she wouldn't believe that for even a moment. It would be the end of trust between us for good. I sighed. It's not that. I wasn't going to take advantage of you like that. Mia's unbelieving chuckle interrupts me. Really? You think that'll work? Is her fear gone? I hold up a hand to interrupt her in turn. I'm not trying to brush aside what I almost did. It's just not that. It's... fuck it. It's much worse. That did shut her up. This is information that will get us both killed if spread. The highest level of dangerous information I talked about this morning. After what I did, I'll understand if you want to leave. I won't stop you. I'll also still arrange for your mother's treatment, not to mention pay you compensation for your pain. You can return to being a normal maid or quit. You won't face any repercussions from me either way. All I ask is that you don't share what I'm about to tell you, for both our sake. Do you still want me to tell you, with all that preamble out of the way? To her credit, Mia takes a moment to think it through before answering. I'll hear what excuse you've cooked up. Yep, definitely lacking normal inhibitions and fear there. It would probably be better for me if I just pretended this was an attempted assault. No, what I almost did instead, only stopped by mere chance, was eat you. I'm being literal, not playing with words. What? Huh? Didn't the priest? Her eyes dart to the golden pendant hanging from my neck. She's still a little incredulous, but some fear is starting to creep back in. I'm not a demon. I grabbed the pendant. If I am a demon, Nocton, strike me down right now. Unexpectedly, the pendant actually reacts. The brief flash of panic I feel is alleviated by the soft, milky glow enveloping my body for a second before jumping over to Mia. The undercurrent of a pained grimace tugging at her face eases as the light flows into the cut on her foot. I can't see through the bandage, but by smell I guess the wound wasn't completely closed when the light was expended. I feel unexpectedly calm and relaxed, like it was a nice night and I was gazing up at the full moon. It's the wrong moon, I realize after a second of dissonance. This wasn't Earth's moon, nor the pair of Nocton and Regis. It's as if Nocton had taken the place of the moon I was used to, alone in the sky. The moment fades. Waking from my reverie, I catch Mia wiping unshed tears from her eyes with her sleeve. A smile adorns her face, though it evaporates when she, too, regains her senses. Her heart is back to its normal pace somehow. Divine power? Well, I clear my throat to get rid of the lump stuck in it. That was something, I believe, that should clear up the issue of me potentially being a demon. Mia nods reluctantly. She's calm, like me. Whatever Nocton did must have helped. Doesn't change the fact that I almost ate you. Do you remember the first question I posed to you when you agreed to be my confidant? The one about what to do about the demon? No, wait. You told me to imagine someone I was close with was a monster in disguise. You didn't just mean the demon, did you? Correct. I am what might be classified as a monster. I'm not quite sure, since I haven't heard of anything like me before in the world, but it's likely correct. How what? For how long? How did the Steel Hearts miss that? Are you not the Duke's son? Mia gasps. Did you kill him and take his place? If I wasn't sure there was no one nearby due to my heart sense, I'd be worried about the rising volume of Mia's questions. For what I just revealed, she's staying surprisingly rational. Possibly a lingering effect of Noctin's grace. I am Kaelin Steelheart. I wasn't a monster until about yesterday around this time. Well, aside from colloquial usage of the word, maybe. Anyway, I was human. The demon performed a ritual that turned me into what I am now. The rest of what I've told the others is correct though. I never signed any contracts with the thing and my soul is still my own. No demon has a hold on me. Not for a lack of trying. There are a few notable changes. The main two are an increased weakness to sunlight and the need to drink blood to survive. The first one isn't that much of an issue for me, due to... I gesture at my body. Ah! Mia nods a little. Then she pauses. The reason the priest's healing burned your skin was that, as well then? Correct. I have an incompatibility with the sun that is similar to before, but bad enough to rapidly incinerate me if I can't get away in time. As you almost experienced, it's the second weakness that is the bigger issue. Blood is the only thing that will sate my hunger. And right now, I feel like I'm starving. To be honest, you smell quite appetizing. My eyes flick to her foot before I avert them. Do you need to drink blood from humans? How dangerous is it? She's adjusted with impressive speed for someone who was in shock moments ago. Divine power or no? I don't know. I haven't been this way for very long. Wait, the chickens? You're trying to test whether animal blood works, aren't you? Wow, I knew this girl wasn't stupid, but she's deducing my plans and actions very well. Kind of concerning to be seen through this easily, though she was there for most of what I'd done. That's right. If it works, it'll be a massive relief. Especially since I don't know what happens to a person if I bite them. I'd prefer to avoid that if possible. How exactly were you planning to accomplish this test of yours without someone noticing? Even with the excuse of me handling all your cooking, I would have definitely noticed if you started drinking chicken blood. I sighed. I was planning to inform you bit by bit, but circumstances forced my hand. Or, well, I lost control. Now the cat is out of the bag. I really am terribly sorry about both what I almost did and what actually happened. It wasn't my intention to scare or hurt you. I'm sure you'll want to leave now. I understand and won't hold it against you. Can you swear nothing like this will happen again? What? I must not have heard that correctly. Swear it. And I'll consider staying and helping you. I'm dumbfounded. As much as I would love to just say some reassuring words, there's no way I can guarantee that. I swear that I'll do my best to maintain control. I also wish Noctin would strike me down before I let something like this happen again. My pendant flashes dimly where I hold it. Both our eyes are drawn to it. Fine, I guess that's good enough. Not like the comforting lie would have been very believable anyway. I'll help you. Not that I'm complaining, but why? Well, there's no chance your family will let anyone who knows about this live if they ever find out, so I can't exactly reveal it. Also, if I leave you alone, you'll just make an easily preventable mistake and get discovered and die. Then they'll dispose of all the servants here, just in case. Mia's face lights up in what might pass for an amused smile, if not for the tension of pain underneath. Also, though you might not like me saying this, you seem more like a human now than you did before. Even with what happened, you're more personable somehow. Like the previous you was the real blood-sucking monster. She shrugs. I laugh at that. Even someone who hadn't heard of them before could make familiar jokes about vampires and nobles. I understand. Though for now, we should probably get you some food, before you get any more funny ideas. I wholeheartedly agree with that idea. Mia and I are in the kitchen again. To my great displeasure, I decided not to drink Mia's blood from the floor. It'd be irresponsible, since I don't have any idea what drinking someone's blood would do, even if it wasn't directly from the vein. The two of us are staring at the pair of chickens, held in separate cages in a side area. So what now? Mia asks. Do you want me to kill them? Or cut them? Will you bite them yourself? Are your teeth good enough for that? She's doing her best to get over her nervousness in my presence. Or at least to not show it. though she goes a bit far in the opposite direction, acting much more familiar than I'd expect. A sort of bluff or social smokescreen, I would guess. My unfair advantages in this field show me her heart still beats a bit faster than normal in my presence. If her behavior helps, I won't call her on it. Don't worry about my teeth. Look, I can extend my canines. I demonstrate. Mia looks a little disturbed. That's great? I guess it still hadn't settled in that you really are a monster now. Well, differently than before. Apparently she hadn't seen my face earlier, during the incident. Probably distracted by everything else. I guess I did deserve the moniker before, huh? By the way, if I ever act even close to what happened earlier, please let me know. Feel free to do whatever it takes to snap me out of it. Got it. I'll stab you if you ever corner me like that again. Though I'd need your permission to carry a knife in the manor. The way Mia holds that kitchen knife while smiling at me is just a touch creepy. Maybe she still isn't entirely over what happened. Understandable. Sure, I'll allow it. Though you should pick a proper dagger, not a kitchen knife. I'd recommend not stabbing me in sight of any guards. Just in case. Also, please aim for a non-vital area, like a leg or arm. I'm not sure whether I can regrow my organs yet. Mia almost laughs at my joke, then stops, stunned. Wait, you're serious? I was mostly joking. And what do you mean you aren't sure whether you can regrow organs? Oh yeah, my transformation comes with some upsides. Rapid healing is one. I'm also significantly stronger, and all my senses are improved. I can hear heartbeats, even through walls. I take one of the 2 bent coins from my pocket, the one I'd made. Fitting with the heartbeat revelation, Mia's grows more rapid. That's interesting. So the wounds the healer and priest treated were fake. Then, not exactly. The wounds were real, but I intentionally held back my healing. The reason should be pretty obvious. Mia nods. Now on to the chickens. Earlier, I fed the left one some of my blood. You what? Actually, I should stop being surprised by whatever you say. Unlike what I feared, that didn't turn the chicken into a being similar to me. As far as I can tell at least. Careful, your jaw might fall off if you leave it hanging like that. I know what I just said. But what? Why is that an option you considered likely? Mia needs a moment to stop being slack-jawed. Well, the demon didn't say much about what it was doing, but I got the feeling this creature I've become reproduces by converting others. There's a good reason I didn't drink your blood earlier, even though I really wanted to. I just don't know what it would do to you. I would prefer not being turned into a monster, thank you. Quite like the sun. And not being hunted down and killed. That's nice too. Well, I strongly hope there won't be any hunting down involved. Let's work on that now. I'd like you to cut the left chicken a little so that it bleeds. I'll command it to hold still. Throwing her hands up in exasperation, Mia grabs the chicken cage and carries it into the kitchen proper. Sure, you can command chickens now. Or is it because you fed it your blood? Anyway, when will you stop with the world-shattering revelations? With a careful cut, the chicken starts bleeding into a strategically positioned bowl. In my mind, the connection between me and it hasn't weakened. Instead, it's stronger than earlier. The chicken's little mind doesn't resist my commands at all. It doesn't even seem to feel the pain. Slightly concerning. Once the bowl holds a mouthful of blood, I take it and tip it into my mouth after a quick sniff. Just like the plain smell indicated, the liquid doesn't really taste like much. What faint aroma I do detect reminds me, fittingly, of chicken. The metallic tang I associate with blood is mostly absent. Just like the human blood, I belatedly realize. A pleasant feeling washes through me, like drinking a cool glass of water after being in the heat all day. My hunger abates, if only a little. It's only a mouthful, after all. Excited, I return the bowl to its spot. Did it work? Mia looks a bit disgusted. Understandable reaction. She doesn't know how refreshing that was. Didn't taste like much, but I do feel less ravenous. Not nearly enough, though. I'm going to test drinking directly now. Finding a spot to bite the bird without getting a mouthful of feathers is a hassle, so I decide not to bother. Instead, I release the chicken from its cage and pick it up, The connection keeps it docile and calm. Then I bring my mouth to the leg wound. It's not a large wound by any account, already scabbing over. Still, once I begin sucking, the blood flows freely. Far too freely to be natural. Compared to blood from the bowl, the fresh version is slightly tastier. I can also drink it much faster, barely pausing to swallow. Before I know it, the flow of blood stops, just as it started tasting a bit better, too. Unsatisfied, I lick my lips before regaining my senses. It hadn't been very much blood all in all, only around a tall glass full or so. Maybe half a pint at most. Still, it fell like drizzling rain on the parched soil that was my body. The chicken is dead. That fact isn't exactly surprising, but annoying nonetheless. I don't feel nearly as bad about it as I feel I should. What bothers me more than the loss of life is the interruption of my experiments. My weak reaction to killing a living being bothers me more than the actual act. Dimly, I remember the connection between us fading as I exsanguinated the creature. It just hadn't reached my awareness while I was drinking. Damn, I'm glad I didn't test this on anything I actually cared about. You killed it. Was that part of your plan? Mia's question pulls me from my thoughts. Not exactly. I wanted to run more tests on it, but I guess it's good enough for now. Can you begin preparing the carcass? It was meant to be dinner officially in addition to this unofficial meal. Sure. After handing over the dead bird to Mia, I consider the second one. Surprisingly, the bird doesn't appear particularly distressed about its comrade's passing, sitting in its cage. Probably hadn't noticed with it being in a side room like this. The previous test confirmed multiple important things. First, I could drink blood indirectly, like from a cup. Second, even if I had a blood bond with a creature, I could still drink its blood without issue. Third, it was really hard to maintain control of myself while drinking directly. It was also easier than it should be to suck the blood out of something. These two facts were mutually synergistic in endangering the health and safety of my feeding target. In conclusion, indirectly feeding was probably going to be invaluable on anything I didn't want dead. Like, say, a human willing to donate their blood to me. Mia once again interrupts me. She's done removing the feathers and has started on gutting the carcass, but stops to call and show me something. There's no blood left at all. If I didn't know better, I'd think this chicken had been properly bled out after slaughter. So, basically, I could pull out every last drop of blood from the body of whatever I fed on. Very useful. I also noticed the chicken didn't really die until the blood was all spent, unlike what I assumed happened with a normal bleeding wound. Definitely magic of some kind. Does that mean I can accidentally kill someone by feeding even though they're still alive when I stop? Will they just suddenly drop dead, fall into a coma, or what? Concerning but useful. Very concerning. Good to know. Please remind me not to bite anything or anyone I want to keep alive. Well, at least it's good for butchery. No offense, my lord. Mia chuckles nervously. None taken. I had a similar thought, anyway. I smirk and put on my best noble voice. That said, how dare you imply my esteemed personage would be associated with such a mundane, lowly thing as butchery? As punishment, you will continue to taste test all my food. Can't have some cook get any bright ideas and try to poison his superiors. I tisk and shake my head. Mia's turned away from me to continue her work on the bird, but I could swear she has a small grin on her face. Yes, Lord Steelheart. I will also do my best to prepare the food for you and your guest. I leave the almost giggling girl to her work. My hunger is rising again. The brief reprieve from chicken blood already over. That's way too fast. At this rate, I'd spend half my time drinking blood. I couldn't exactly have dozens of animals slaughtered daily. That's how you get demon possession rumors. And if I was called to travel by the king or my father, I'd need blood on the go. Blood clots fast when exposed to air, so storage is a problem. If only there was a way to easily preserve blood. I mutter out loud. There might be. Though. You know of a method? What is it? I don't know if it's appropriate to mention. Do you really think I care about propriety right now? I might actually starve or turn into a mindless beast or something if I don't solve this issue. Mia looks a little cowed by my outburst. Damn it. Getting unnecessarily angry won't help anyone. I slap my cheeks and shake my head. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snap at you. It's just the situation is a little stressful, you know? Please tell me about this preservation method you mentioned. Her answer is still a little hesitant. It's more of a method for dealing with scraps and leftovers from butchering. So what I'm talking about is basically the most commoner of commoner foods. Not something any noble would eat. I wave her concerns away. I just drank the blood from a live chicken. Do you really think I care what other nobles do or don't eat? Then, have you heard of blood sausage? A bunch of scraps are boiled together with the drained blood until it solidifies. It's usually pretty fatty, and I'd call it an acquired taste. I also don't know if it would work for your specific needs. Mia's voice gets quieter and trails off as she watches my expression morph. I have the unique experience of having a light bulb go off in my mind while simultaneously wanting to facepalm so hard my hand comes out the back of my head. Instead, I settle for slowly wiping my hands down my face. Why, oh why, did I not think of the food that literally has blood in the name? Now that it's brought to my attention, I remember there being quite a few blood-based dishes on Earth. Everything from bread to soups. Not that I was overly familiar with them, beyond a have you heard of these unusual foods in other countries level. But still, blood sausage was something I'd actually seen in my previous life. I hadn't tried it then, due to being a little grossed out by the idea, but right now it was something to consider at the very least. How did I not think of it? Are you okay? Mia asks after I'd been silently considering if I was secretly a moron for a minute or so while cradling my face in my hands. I nod. I did actually know what that was. I grimace. I just forgot. The touch of incredulity on Mia's face really wasn't helping my self-esteem. Time to distract. Can you get some of this blood sausage for me, say, tomorrow? I don't want to draw attention to myself before I even know whether it works or not. If it turns out that it does, then I'll just have to claim I developed an unusual taste for commoner food. Or something like that. I can go check if there is any. The fresh version doesn't last long at all before going bad. A few days at most in cool conditions. So that's eaten immediately. The portion that isn't likely to be eaten straight away is smoked. So that'll last longer. Mia puts on a thoughtful face. It'll still be a month or two until the serious winter preparations start, so most livestock is still being fattened up. A special order with a butcher or farmer might get attention. Maybe. I could buy a whole pig on your orders and then act like you were a little unreasonable and actually wanted everything. Apparently it was late summer or early fall. Autumn was good for me, though, since that meant the days would be getting shorter. Blame it on me expecting guests, maybe? And that I worded my order weirdly so you don't want to mess it up. You can figure out an excuse. Sure, I can do that, though it might take a few days if they're slaughtering it fresh. Mia smiles a little, the corner of her mouth barely twitching upwards. She turns serious again. Are you going to drink the second chicken? Oh right, I'm doing that now. Only a few hours left until dinner time after all. I didn't want to inconvenience Mia any more than I already was. The chicken did not survive the night. It had been docile enough while I picked it up and brought it close to my face. That only changed when I bit it in the wing through the feathers, but by then it was too late. Surprisingly, I had actually managed to stop drinking. Unfortunately for the feathered creature, that had been when there was only about a mouthful of blood left in its body, so it had promptly fallen unconscious and died within half a minute. It had not, against my expectations, gotten back up as either a vampire chicken or any kind of undead thrall. What had happened, to my bafflement and delight, was the puncture wounds left by my fangs healing within seconds of leaving my mouth, even as the bird they were attached to was in the process of rapidly expiring. I could only assume the other chicken hadn't experienced this because the wound wasn't caused by my fangs. Or maybe because it was already dead when I stopped. If this effect was consistent, it'd be of great help to me. Aside from the bird being dead, there was no sign left of anything happening to it. Besides it dying of blood loss, obviously. At least there was no sign of what caused the very obvious lethal blood loss. No twin puncture marks as evidence of a vampire. What remained of the blood was currently drying in a shallow bowl next to me as I sat at the dining table, waiting. It barely coated the bottom. Loath as I was to waste blood, this was another test. Not that this tiny amount would have made a difference. The sensation I would have described as drizzling onto parched ground had happened again with the second chicken. Only that this time, I had paid more attention to what happened afterward. The blood was seeping into my body like water into parched soil. It barely made it to my veins before being absorbed. I was minutely better in some way afterwards. A theory was forming. I'm not completely transformed yet. Still in a growing phase. This world had magic, demons, knights with enhanced bodies, monsters in the nearby forest. Becoming stronger was great, but it was a massive drain on my blood reserves. I figured out how to stop the process, a lot like suppressing my healing. My hunger hadn't grown between early afternoon and dinner time, so I was calling it a success. I could toggle the enhancement on and off. Off meant I'd last longer on less blood. On meant continued growth at the cost of constant hunger. So here I sat, waiting on Lars and dinner to arrive. Obviously, a vampire inviting a human to dinner might invoke some unwholesome ideas. Equally obviously, I wasn't planning on drinking Lars. If I even could. I was still unsure how our strength compared. Leaving aside the physical aspects, I had absolutely no combat training whatsoever. Neither from my life on Earth nor from Kalen's memories. When I could hear his steady, thrumming heart move away from the tower, leaving the guard position to a quartet of guards instead, I grabbed my blood bowl. The dried blood wasn't appealing, though more so than when I was a human. Big surprise. I licked it. To my mild surprise, the hard, flaky substance practically melted on contact with my saliva. After only 2 licks, the bowl was spotless. Something that resembled liquid blood more than I thought it should went down my throat. It was almost completely tasteless. The barest hint of chicken clung to the back of my mouth for a moment before fading away. My hunger abated the tiniest bit. So old blood isn't worthless. Then, good to know. Blood sausage is likely also edible too. Why was the ritual blood so tasteless then? That had more of a change in flavor than for the chicken, with similar amounts of time passed. And it was still mostly liquid. I idly wondered whether I could get food poisoning from improperly handled blood. The demon had claimed I was immune to mundane diseases, but what about poison? Actually, with how my body appeared to not actually metabolize any food I ate, was I just immune to food-based poison altogether? Something I would have to test carefully at a later time. Although, there was one poison I could test right now at dinner without garnering any suspicion. In fact, it would aid my deception instead of harming it. I greeted Lars as he arrived and took his prepared seat. As the lord of this manor, I sat at the head of the table. Lars was positioned to my right. Another spot to my left was set as well. Lars raised an eyebrow when he saw it. Officially, Lars was the only person of a high enough rank to eat at the same table as me in this place. He was a minor noble due to his status as a knight. Even the steward appointed by the family was, in the end, just a servant. The only other person, actually the only person Kalen would regularly eat with, was lying dead on the side tower's 3rd floor. Lars was not someone Kalen regularly interacted much with. This was owed to multiple factors, not limited to suspicion about Lars' allegiance. Kalen was also, among other things, jealous of the other man's strength and healthy body. Needless to say, an extra set of utensils with no noble guests was weird. It went against social customs. Still, the raised eyebrow was the only comment Lars made. A minute of silence later, Mia enters carrying a tray of food. She'd decided to turn part of the 2 chickens into a rich, creamy soup as the starter. My improved sense of smell was working overtime. It even overpowered the smell of Lars' blood for a little bit. After she'd placed down the 3 plates, I waved Mia over and whispered in her ear. She left the room again. When she returned, Mia was carrying a dark glass bottle. One of Kalen's favorite vices was alcohol. He'd spent a not insignificant portion of the last 5 years drunk. Of course, the manor would be well stocked with various drink. And alcohol was technically a poison. Just because many people drank it voluntarily didn't change the fact it had various negative effects in large quantities. So, I could work on my Kalen guys and test my susceptibility to ingested poison at the same time. Win-win. At my behest, Mia poured 3 glasses, one for each occupied spot. After she passed them out, she stood to the side and slightly behind my chair. Lars' eyes had been alternating between the empty seat and me. "So, who's the other guest?" he asked as he swirled his wine. "She's here. Sit down already. The food is getting cold." I rolled my eyes at Mia with a smile. "What?" 2 voices overlapped. Mia was trying to convey something at me with her eyes. I assumed she was unsure about sitting with me with Lars present. Lars' eyebrows were steadily rising as he looked between the 2 of us. Finally, Mia relented and sat down. I raised my glass in a toast and the other 2 hesitantly followed. The wine was good as far as my limited experience with such things went. I assumed my enhanced senses improved the flavor's richness. It was less bitter than I remembered alcohol being. Different taste buds, maybe? Part of me wished the glass was filled with blood instead. After a small sip of his own drink, Lars locked his eyes on me. "Did I miss something important? Not to be impudent, but you know this isn't proper, right? Lord Steelheart." Funny thing about noble ranks, technically Lars outranked me. He was a knight, I was just a minor lord. In practice, of course, I was his superior. Only an idiot would abuse theoretical rank on a duke's son. Lars was being more courteous than he needed to be, and seemed more confused and worried than outraged. Good to know my assessment of his character was correct. In response to my continued silence, Lars spoke again. "The only way this would be proper is if—" His eyebrows were attempting to lift off from his face as he looked between Mia and me. He switched what he was saying midway through. "Your family would likely not approve, Lord Steelheart." Mia was turning ever so slightly red at the edges. Her gaze was firmly locked to her hands, clasped in her lap. I waved a hand lazily. "It's nothing like that, Lars. I'm not planning to wed my personal attendant. This is an informal dinner. If you don't like my selection of guests, feel free to leave. Also, drop the Lord Steelheart. Just Lord or my lord will suffice here." Lars looked more alarmed now than before. "My lord, while a marriage with a commoner would receive pushback from your family, siring a bastard is even worse. And not just for yourself, but for the mother and child even more so." The heat from Mia's face was reminding me a lot of the sun right now. I was almost tempted to poke a hole to let some of the blood rushing to her head out. "Good to see just how high your opinion of me is. I have no plans of that sort either, Lars. Now eat, the food will really get cold." Lars recoiled at the rebuke, wearing a guilty look. The soup was just as good as it smelled. It was warm, savory, tasty, and deeply, deeply unsatisfying. I grimaced a little at the lack of any hunger relief. Both of the other people at the table, who were foolishly watching me instead of enjoying their own servings, reacted to my expression. Lars just tensed in his seat. It was almost as if he expected me to start swinging at something or someone. Mia, on the other hand, paled. "Is something wrong, Lord Steelheart? Did I season it incorrectly?" I waved off the concern with a smile. "I just forgot to have you test my food first. That's all. Can't forget that." Lars looked startled. "Are you expecting to be poisoned, my lord? Who cooked this?" I thought. His eyes flicked over to Mia. Yes, Mia cooked the meal. But I can't be too careful in the current situation, now can I? Here, open up." Under Lars' bewildered gaze, I stuck a spoonful of soup in Mia's mouth. Once she'd swallowed, the girl looked at me. A bit of red had returned to her ears. "Don't do that. It's embarrassing." "Well, my dear knight here already thinks I'm planning to marry you, so this much is nothing in comparison." I fixed Lars with a stare. "In all seriousness, Mia is simply my personal attendant. Nothing more, nothing less. There's a not insignificant chance I die within the next few days, so I don't much care to maintain social etiquette right now. Not that I cared much before, either. We are here to eat and make pleasant conversation. Am I clear?" Lars nodded like his neck was made of wood. Mia had a relieved expression, though were there hints of disappointment beneath the surface? Just my imagination. The room descended into silence as we each ate our soup. By the time everyone was done, I was downing my third glass of wine. Lars had barely touched his glass, while Mia had drained hers in one go before she began eating. She looked much more relaxed now. Mia collected the plates and carried them back to the kitchen, then returned with the main dish on her tray. Roasted chicken with bread and various vegetables. It was almost as good as the soup. When we were almost done eating, the atmosphere turned a little more lax. Lars apologized to me for misunderstanding the situation and making a big deal out of nothing. Mia drank a second glass of wine. Her cheeks were turning red, not from embarrassment this time. Her heart was much calmer now. Lars, I finally said as I set down my utensils. As I said, Mia is my personal assistant. Assume she acts with my authority and under my direct orders from now on. The man nodded seriously, first to me and then again to Mia. I understand. Good. We talked about the likelihood of you beating the demon hunters if it comes to a fight. Any further info on that? I'm sorry, my lord, but as I already told you, I will not be able to defeat the expected trio of demon hunters. If they're fake then maybe, but it's still unlikely. I laced my fingers together in front of my face. Any message from my father? Not yet. I apologize. Well, we need to get some contingencies in place then. When they arrive, I will meet them in the entrance hall. If they're not immediately hostile, I will try and lead them to the formal meeting room. Obviously, I want you present all the time, Lars, just to forestall any surprise attacks. Now, I turned to Mia. I believe both of those rooms have a fancy chandelier hanging in them? That's correct. Are you planning? It would be so terrible if these heavy, metal ornaments were a little loose when important guests arrived. Wouldn't it? Especially so if the seats in the meeting room were a little rearranged. Some terrible accidents could occur, right, Lars? If you're asking whether I could handle a chandelier unexpectedly dropping on me, the answer is I don't actually know. Depends a lot on how much warning I'd get through sound and visuals and how close I was to directly underneath. If I was hit directly, there's a good chance I would be badly wounded. Head wounds are no joke, even for a knight, if they don't defend against it. Sounds like a good backup plan. Mia, I have to ask you to handle this, since I don't really trust any of the other servants enough not to screw this up. Also, I'm inviting the priest back tomorrow to inspect the site of the attack. I should have had him do that today, but I forgot. I worry some parts of the demon's influence will disperse before real demon hunters arrive. Or worse. All right, I'll get on that tomorrow morning. Mia nodded at me. It does seem wise to have multiple plans to deal with potential danger. I'll return to guard the tower soon. Even though Lars' gaze was serious, he looked relieved I wasn't just planning on relying on his strength alone. Sounds good, we don't want. My eyebrows shot up. I grabbed my pendant visibly displayed over my shirt. A little deception, to explain my unusual knowledge. Small change of plans. Lars, I have an official order for you. What is it, my lord? Lars was already on his feet, hand on his sword's hilt. Arrest the steward for me. What? Steward William has just gained access to the tower. The tower I explicitly forbade anyone from entering without my permission. The tower with the demonic ritual site in it. That tower. Lars' face hardened. Then he sprinted away with a hasty "at once, my lord," lingering in the air. I listened to his heart move through the manor towards the group of 4 guards that were in deep shit now. And of course the old man who would be even deeper soon. The steward had already nearly reached the 2nd floor, heading for the 3rd floor study. Well, this is a pleasant surprise. I'm not quite sure what your plan was, but this can definitely be spun to be useful for me. I smiled a little as I downed the last of the wine. Not the least bit tipsy either. When I arrived at the scene, I was the perfect image of a drunk noble. Stumbling, leaning on Mia, wine stains on my shirt, bottle in hand. Obviously, I wasn't actually drunk. I still didn't feel the alcohol in the slightest. The sun was low, so the manor shielded me, but it was still brighter than I'd like. Upon seeing Steward William kneeling on the ground with his hands bound behind his back, I rushed forwards, angrily waving my bottle. A few drops of wine spilled out, some landing on the floor and others staining my shirt further. "You damned rat," I slurred. "Traitor. I'm surrounded by nothing but traitors these days." William stopped his ongoing tirade at Lars. His eyes quickly took in my appearance before he switched targets. Barely a breath passed before he resumed yelling, at me now instead of the stone-faced knight. "Young master, you cannot treat me like this. I have served you and the family faithfully for years. Tell this oaf to release me immediately." "Faithfully? I ordered that none enter this damned tower, and yet you. I should have Lars behead you right here for your treachery. You demon-conspiring traitor, you must have been involved in the attack as well." Everyone present tensed. I took another swig from my bottle, only about half the wine actually making it to my mouth. "Young master." The steward sounded appalled, though more by the fact I dared to make such an accusation than the accusation itself. "How dare you even suggest such a thing? I hold an important position in the Steelheart family. Everything I do is for the sake of the family. You don't possess the authority to lay a hand on me. Release me this instant, or you will pay the price when word of this spreads." I glowered at the angry old man. "For the sake of the family, eh? No doubt you actually mean for the sake of one of my hateful siblings. Which one is it? Or are you selling me out to multiple at once? That'd be just like you snake." William was getting visibly angrier, red creeping into his face as he strained against the rope binding him. His heartbeat was accelerating. "You call them siblings, but you are nothing but a dirty-blooded runt. You should be grateful the family even took care of you until now, you cursed." I slapped him. While I didn't use nearly my full strength, it was enough to whip the steward's face to the side and cause a bright red mark to form. Afterwards, I cradled my hand like I'd hurt myself. "One more word," I hissed at him, "and I'll disembowel you myself right here." It was something Kalen might have actually done, if he was in this situation. The combination of factors at play would have left him completely devoid of reason by now. William was turning purple with rage, but did actually keep his mouth shut. Apparently, he realized this same fact about Kalen's character. Visibly doing my best to restrain myself, I addressed Lars. "Throw this piece of waste in a cell to rot. Since he likes conspiring with demons so much, I'll just hand him over to the demon hunters when they arrive. They can do with him what they want." At once, Lord Steelheart. Lars saluted me, fist over his heart. Even though he was still visibly fuming, I could see the glimmer of derision and condescension in Steward William's eyes. He obviously still thought I was oblivious to his plans to tamper with the demon hunters, but this all but confirmed it. Before Lars left, I turned to the 4 guards standing nervously to the side. They'd been trying their very hardest to blend into the background, but I hadn't forgotten them. The men were disarmed, their weapons piled up in a far corner. "And you? How dare you disregard my orders not to let anyone inside? Lars, are these the men you call most trustworthy? If so, then I'm disappointed." Lars stepped closer to me and replied with a grimace. "These are not the original guards I posted here when I left earlier. You explain." He pointed at one of the men. "My lord, we were the replacement watch brought by the steward. The previous group was sent away by him. We didn't suspect anything, since he claimed to be acting under your orders." I clicked my tongue, staring at the group. They were a little familiar. How come? Why did Kalen remember some of these particular guards? "Oh, Lars, these men are to be interred as well. I want them interrogated on their allegiances." Though he looked uncomfortable, Lars nonetheless nodded. My purpose here complete, I turned away. "I'm retiring to my quarters. Don't disturb me." So saying, I all but dragged Mia with me. I'd only taken a few steps when something I half expected happened. 3 of the guards' heartbeats had been steadily accelerating since my declaration. With Lars busy wrangling the old man to his feet, they struck. "For Master Melchiadazel." With a combined shout, all 3 of the men rushed at me, pulling out knives they'd hidden on their person. Lars had obviously not checked thoroughly enough when disarming them. Luckily for me, Lars was competent in combat. Before I'd even fully turned around, when the men had covered about half the distance, he fell upon them like a force of nature. The knight shoulder-checked the first assailant from the side, sending him sprawling in the path of his fellows to slow them. I hadn't seen all of it, but I was pretty sure the guard had actually lifted off the ground for a moment. The second traitor had his knife hand bashed by the pommel of Lars' sword as he unsheathed it, the bones snapping with a sickening crunch. The man dropped to his knees, cradling his mangled appendage in shock. Lars kicked him in the sternum in passing, causing him to collapse in a choked cough. I heard ribs shatter. Uncaring for the fate of his comrades, the third man was almost past Lars. His eyes were fixed on my shocked self, knife raised. Lars' sword flashed and the guard stumbled, the tendons in his legs cut. Before he could hit the ground, Lars followed his swing up with a pommel bash to the back of the man's skull. The traitor lay still. I could hear his heart still beat, but the crack his skull had made put his continued survival into question. Finally, Lars rounded on the first man, now back on his feet. The guard stood slumped, obviously in pain. His right arm, where Lars had impacted him, hung limp. The left-handed grip on his knife was unsteady, but he still held it in front of himself, as though he could ward off the knight with it. "Lay down your weapon. Don't make this worse than it already is." Lars was looking at the traitor calmly, sword held loosely in one hand at his side. If I hadn't seen him move just now, I might have thought of Lars as reckless in this moment. As it was, the knight wasn't threatened in the slightest. In response, the traitorous guard only raised his weapon defiantly. Lars sighed, stepping forward. Before he could dispatch his foe, though, the fourth guard, who'd been rooted in shock until now, suddenly tackled his former companion from behind. The traitor was already unsteady on his feet, so he couldn't put up much resistance against the surprise attack. The two men went down in a tangle of limbs, though the fourth guard ended up on top in the short scuffle. Once he'd pinned the wounded traitor to the ground, the guard turned to Lars and me. He was white as a sheet, but still managed to stutter out a few words. I'm not part of whatever this is. I'm not a traitor. Please believe me, Lord Steelheart, Sir Lars." Lars sighed, sheathing his sword. "It's not up to me, Lord Steelheart." I snapped out of my inaction. Though I'd overplayed my shock, I wasn't unfazed. Despite half expecting the attack, I recognized those guards from my scarce memories of Kaelin's dealings with Mel. It was a different thing entirely to actually be exposed to violence so closely. From the corner of my eye, I could see Mia was pale as well. It was especially uncomfortable how excited the spilled blood made me. "Lock him and the demon followers both up separately. I'll decide what to do with him later. As for the others, try to keep them alive for now. I have some questions. Though if they do die, it's not the biggest loss. Oh, do ensure they can't harm anyone or run away." "Understood." Though I could tell he wasn't enthusiastic about what awaited him, the fourth guard still bowed his head to me. "I thank you for your mercy, Lord Steelheart." Hearing my command, Lars stepped over to the pinned traitor. With a sharp kick, he broke the man's left arm as well. Then he followed up with the legs as well. At first the demon follower was cursing at me, but that quickly changed to a pained whimper. My orders handed down, I left. On the way, at Lars' request, we notified the doctor that his services were required. When Mia and I were back in my room, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. This time I turned the lamp on immediately and didn't forget it at first. Then I noticed the broken chair in the corner. The bloodstain and mirror shards had been cleaned up earlier, but the chair wasn't as important, so we'd left it be. Aside from the one chair, there weren't any typical places to sit in the room. I'd sat on the desk earlier and the bed was also available, but I could already tell Mia was mildly uncomfortable just being in this room again. I turned to her. "Want to check out your new room instead? Maybe there'll be a chair or two there." Mia's new room really was directly next door. I brought the magical lamp along. The room was newly furnished, with a large bed and dresser plus a small table with 2 chairs. I placed the lamp on the table as I took a seat. Mia looked around the room, opening the dresser to check inside. She frowned. "They already moved all my things here from the servants' quarters." I don't even know when it happened. Is that a problem? I asked, trying my best not to be insensitive. I had to admit I didn't see the big issue, though that was probably colored in part by Kalen's memories. He'd never done anything that could be classified as chores in his life. Mia sighed. Not really. I would have liked to do it myself, though. It's not like I have a lot of belongings in the first place, but a few of the things have personal value to me. The idea of someone else handling them carelessly hurts a little. You know? I nodded. Anyway, is there a reason you're here? Another crazy revelation about yourself to drop on me? Some kind of test to run? Mia was still standing on the other side of the room. Rubbing my chin, I pondered the question. Not really. I wanted to get a little distance from that situation at the tower. Maybe discuss future plans with my confidant. I flashed her a wide smile. For some reason, Mia's ears turned slightly pink and she looked away. What are your plans for the steward and those guards? She quickly asked, as if to distract from her embarrassment. I don't believe for a moment that you're going to just hand him over to whoever he's called to deal with you. Well, I'm going to go and visit the prisoners soon. There are some questions to ask and, as you said, tests to run. Are you going to drink their blood? She clearly wasn't fond of the idea, though I couldn't tell whether she was actually opposed to it or not. The idea has definitely crossed my mind. Assuming I handle it properly, I might be able to solve my blood issue in the short term. I'm not giddy at the thought of drinking from an unwilling person, but to be honest, those people have done a great job at reducing how much I care about their well-being. Also, I'm pretty sure the punishment for attempting to kill your lord is usually death. Probably the same for working with demons. I tried my best to ignore how much I felt like a hypocrite when I said that. The person in those memories isn't me, I reminded myself. It helped a bit. Actually, while I'm on the topic of drinking blood, I just remembered there was some spilled in that altercation. Do you think it was already cleaned up? If not, I'd like you to gather it up and bring it to me if you can. If you're okay with that, of course. Mia looked at me silently for a few seconds. You know that blood is on the floor, right? Outside? You really want to eat that? Also, how am I supposed to gather it? I'm sure a little bit of dirt won't kill me, and it's on the paved path, not bare earth. As for how you could mop it up with a rag and then bring that. You arg. Never mind. I'll do it. Assuming it's not already gone. Please don't do anything stupid before I come back. So saying, the maid left the room. I was pretty sure the blood was still there, since I'd been paying some attention to any hearts near the tower after we left. Lars had called for further guards as backup, left 6 of them on site to keep the tower secure, and then he'd escorted the prisoners away with the rest. No one else had approached the tower since. It had only been a few minutes. Lars was preoccupied dealing with the traitors. Getting people to clean up wasn't his highest priority. Left to my own devices for a while, I focused more on my heart sense again. Near the edge of my range, I followed Lars as he led the prisoners into the underground prison under the guard barracks. Until he was too far away anyhow. One of the traitors, the guy with the cracked skull and cut tendons, was actually in the infirmary. There were 2 other guards keeping an eye on him as the doctor did his best to preserve his life. His heart still hadn't stopped, so maybe he'd actually make it through. Not that he'd likely survive the aftermath of this whole situation. Even if he did, this guy would be the first I'd visit. Even aside from the fact that he might die before I got to him otherwise, he'd also raise the fewest questions if I did accidentally kill him. Also, this was the person the spilled blood belonged to, so I'd have to see if that had any effects. Mia was presumably finished with her cleaning, judging by her moving back towards me. I'd leave trying to catch a rat for nighttime. It's not like I would be going to sleep, since I still wasn't the least tired. For now, I'd see if and how drinking spilled blood affected a person. I stared at the large, bloody rag Mia used to wipe up the bloodstains. It laid in a bucket, mildly damp from the water necessary to get the drying blood off the ground. As I'd been warned by Mia, there was a significant amount of dirt and grime mixed in. Even with the faint scent of sweet blood, the thing didn't look appetizing. Looking up, I met the former maid's gaze. She seemed to be torn between a mix of disgust and anticipation, like she was waiting to see if I'd actually do it. I was mentally debating the matter. My eyes narrowed. You didn't get extra dirt on this on purpose, did you? Mia shifted in place, her eyes refusing to meet mine. A faint hint of red crept into her ears. Was she testing to see how I would react? Whether I'd break my new character? Or was this just an attempt at a joke? I snorted and shook my head. This girl was really lucky I wasn't Kalen. Well, I did say a little dirt wouldn't kill me. I picked the rag from the bucket and brought it towards my face. The way Mia's eyes widened in surprise made the corners of my mouth twitch. With the rag right in front of me, I considered how best to get the blood out of it. Due to the moisture, it hadn't dried yet. I might be able to squeeze the cloth and get most of the liquid out that way. Will the dilution affect the blood's potency? It wasn't a lot of water. I stuck my tongue out and gave the rag a tiny lick. As expected, the dirt flavor was pretty forward. Still, the liquid blood water mix tasted good. A bit thin, but still like proper human blood. Like slightly watered down juice, sorta? Inspecting the rag again, the spot I'd licked was unusually clean. Or, to be more precise, unusually blood-free. Some dirt was still stuck there. Actually, it reminded me of when I licked clean that bowl of dried chicken blood earlier. And a bit less similarly, it also brought back memories of the chicken's blood flowing with unusual ease from their bodies. Does that require a living body, though? Or does it work on any contiguous volume of blood? Only one way to test. Mia gasped a little as I brought the cloth to my mouth proper and closed my lips to its side. Then I began to suck on the bloody liquid. There was some resistance, but I did get a larger than expected amount of blood in my mouth. I kept sucking and it didn't stop, even though there really shouldn't have been any left in the parts near my mouth. The taste of dirt had stopped after the first bit. Then, after about 2 mouthfuls, no more blood followed. I reopened my eyes, even though I didn't remember closing them. Mia's gaze was disbelieving as it alternated between me and the bundle of cloth in my hands. I looked down at it. Not a hint of red remained on the dirty rag. Most of the dirt was indeed still there. Apparently, I'd somehow pulled out the blood without any of the grime coming along. The rag was also dry to the touch. I shook it gently and most of the dust and earth fell off into the bucket. See, that was easy. I smiled mischievously at Mia. It took a moment for her to regain control of her jaw. You didn't know that would happen. Her answer was a funny mix of accusatory and uncertain. And you can't prove that, I retorted with a widening grin. Then, while looking her straight in the eyes, I dropped the now useless rag into the bucket. That a small cloud of dust and dirt spread across her room's floor was entirely coincidental. Somehow, the twitch of Mia's eye gave me the impression she didn't quite believe it was purely an accident and not payback for trying to intentionally make me eat dirt. No idea what gave her that idea. Maybe I shouldn't have given her such a wide, shark-like grin at that moment. I don't know. Mia coughed into her fist. Anyway, now that you've drank this blood, did anything happen? Good question. I focused on my body's state for a few seconds. Aside from being less hungry, I don't feel any difference. Nothing had noticeably happened, to me at least. I didn't know whether there was any change to the unconscious trader. No, his heart was still beating at the same slow pace. He also hadn't moved at all. I guess I'll do my inspection of the prisoner now. Do you want to come along? After thinking about it for a moment, Mia shook her head. You go on ahead. I'll join you later. Don't get yourself caught by doing anything stupid. Okay? I will do my best. With an unnecessarily flamboyant mini-bow, I picked up my mostly empty wine bottle from the table and headed to the infirmary. When I arrived, the pair of guards informed me the doctor was absent, tending to the other prisoners. The traitor kept here was unconscious and hadn't reacted to anything that happened to him. Even when they opened his eyes and shone a light directly into them, he didn't respond at all. As I stepped into the room where the traitor lay face down on a bed, I couldn't tell any change to him with any of my senses. His blood smelled the same. His heartbeat and breathing were steady but slow, and he didn't have any visible differences to last time I'd seen the man. Aside from the bandages, of course. One of the guards had followed me into the room, but I sent him back outside. It was surprisingly hard to convince him, but there wasn't really anything he could do about me being stubborn and insisting on my order. I decided to interpret it as a good thing that the guard didn't want to leave me alone with a potential danger, instead of the less charitable version where he was worried I'd do something to the prisoner. Once the door was closed and both guards were as far away as they were going to get, I stepped closer to the bed. My plan was to feed this guy some of my blood to see the effects of the blood bond thing on humans. Then I would test drinking his blood. On the way here, I'd scrounged up a cup to go with my new bottle of wine. This way, I'd have a container to try indirect feeding without having to explain why I had it. Unfortunately, to feed the unconscious man my blood, he'd have to be face up. It wasn't like he could intentionally drink anything, so the only way was to dribble it into his mouth slowly and hope he actually swallowed instead of choking. Of course, with my new strength, I could flip this guy over, no problem. Unfortunately for me, Kalen was not only unfit but also pretty averse to exertion. So it would raise a lot of eyebrows if someone entered the room and found this guy flipped over. I paused a moment at the thought. There was a clear decrease in empathy towards strangers in my mind. I wondered if it was Kalen's memories blending with mine or the vampire transformation. Vampires feeling less guilty about harming humans would make sense. Said humans were their food source, after all. Still, being a remorseless killer was a great way to end up a true monster. The kind that got slain because everyone feared them. So even from pure rational self-interest, I had good reasons to behave morally. Enough of that. I have something to do. The obvious way to turn the traitor over without raising too many suspicions was to just order the guards to do it. Now for an excuse and some performance. I'd been making demands, slowly escalating to shouting at the unconscious traitor, for several minutes. When I opened the door, the two guards looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. I was still drunk, which was an occupational hazard for anyone around Kalen, especially if he didn't get what he wanted. Since the traitor obviously couldn't answer any of my questions nor follow my yelled orders to wake up, the guards' apprehension was understandable. Still, my order caught them by surprise. You too. Turn that traitor rat over. If I may ask, my lord, why? I mean, no disrespect, but if we turn that man onto his back, he might suffer further damage to his skull. Why do you care what happens to that demon-conspiring snake? I glared at the guard. I just meant that if we move him and he dies, then there is no chance at all of you getting the answers you want, my lord. The deferential bow was uncomfortable to witness, much less have directed at me. Then just be careful while turning him. That should be obvious in the first place. I could see a retort forming for a moment. Then the guard sighed. As you command, Lord Steelheart. It took a few minutes for the two men to carefully reposition the unconscious body onto his back. They employed a special arrangement of pillows to keep his head steady without having the back touch anything. When they were done, the two turned to me. What are you planning on doing, my lord? Do you need us to help you? Your job here is done. I'm just going to feed this rat some wine. Maybe that'll wake him up. The two guards shared a concerned look, but didn't say anything. Since no one stopped me, I carefully opened the unconscious man's mouth by grabbing his chin. Then, I tipped my cup to let a trickle of wine flow into his mouth. At first it looked like the man might choke on the liquid, but then what must have been a natural reflex kicked in and he swallowed a sip. I continued this slow process until the originally half-full cup was empty. Then I glared at the body expectantly. What had been in the cup wasn't pure wine. I'd mixed some of my blood into it. Nothing happened for a while. The two guards were growing visibly more uncomfortable being in the room with me. I don't need you here. Go guard outside. I waved the two away. Alone with the comatose man again, I focused. Something was different. I just couldn't tell what exactly. A minute or so later, I realized what it was. There was a minor pull in my mind. A connection similar to the chicken before. The difference was, I didn't feel anything from the other side. The connection was weak, hair-thin. But that wasn't the reason for the lack of feedback. The connection, despite its weakness, was working correctly. There just wasn't anything going on in the man's mind. I was unsure whether that was just because he was unconscious, or if there was something fundamentally wrong with his brain. It wasn't impossible for the traitor to be brain dead, even though his body was still alive. Was that something magic could fix in this world? Possibly. Was this guy in particular going to receive any such treatment? Almost certainly not. In a way, this was good for me. If he was already effectively dead, it would be less bad if he actually died at my hand or order. I set the issue aside for now. Time to test some things. Morphing my thumb's nail into a claw, I placed a shallow cut into one of the veins on the ex-guard's hand. The resultant blood flowed into my cup. When the cup was full, I tried out one of my ideas. Making sure to keep a tight grip on my mind, I licked the fresh wound. For one tantalizing moment, I knew I could have sucked out an amount of blood incomparable to a mere cup's worth. Then my tongue had moved past the wound, and the moment ended. The only thing I was left with was the sweet taste on my lips. When I looked down at the hand, the wound had vanished. Aside from some drying spit, there was no sign his hand had been hurt. That confirms my saliva has some form of healing effect. It's good that it extends beyond wounds caused by my fangs. It couldn't be a very powerful effect, though, since the wound only healed after it left my mouth. Or does it only heal when exposed to air or something? To test, I made another small cut on the same hand and then wrapped my lips around it. It took every bit of my self-control not to drink deeply. Still, I couldn't stop my tongue from tasting the beating blood. The continued bleeding, even without active suction, indicated wounds really didn't heal while still in my mouth. Reluctantly, I pulled away with a final lick. Again, the wound closed once it left my mouth. That's potentially very useful for a number of applications. I would assume for now that I couldn't heal large injuries with my saliva. I'd need to test this at some point, but this man's wounds were too well known to too many people to risk accidentally removing one. And adding further ones I didn't know I could remove was also inadvisable. Still, just being able to remove bite marks or small cuts like this without leaving a trace was amazing for avoiding detection. Not to mention potential application in healing actual wounds. Mia's cut foot sprang to mind unbidden. Said cut had been partially healed by Noctin's divine power, but it wasn't fully gone yet. No, I can't allow myself to risk this before thorough testing. I shook my head. Time for the fun part. I tipped the cup of blood into my mouth. Sweet nectar flowed down my throat. In its passing, my hunger abated noticeably. Just a bit more and I might actually feel properly full. I gulped. My eyes flicked to the bare wrist not far away. I took it into my hands. With skin-to-skin contact, I could feel the man's pulse through my fingers. His blood pressure is a little low, I noted. Then I paused. How did I know that? I focused on what I perceived of his body. I could hear and feel blood rushing through veins. Somehow, I had a sense for how much blood there was in total. Not a precise one, not at all. But I knew this man had less blood than his body could hold. His heartbeat was rising to make up for the loss of blood pressure. And still, there was still more blood there than absolutely necessary. I can take some. My fangs extended. I'd bitten down before I even realized it. Sweet blood flowed freely. But somehow, maybe because I had just drank and wasn't nearly as ravenous, maybe because I was doing my best to be careful, I stopped and felt for the signs again. Still fine. So I drank a little more. Just a bit. It was harder to pull back a second time. This time, I forced myself to let go, to leave the rest of the blood where it belonged. Though just a bit more wouldn't hurt, right? I slapped myself on the cheek to snap out of it. By now, I could tell I'd already taken it too far. Not much, but the pressure in the man's veins was critically low. I could take the rest, it's already too late now anyway. I grimaced at the unbidden thoughts, forced myself to step back. Despite the whispers of desire, the man wouldn't expire anytime soon. It wasn't lethal blood loss quite yet, but I'd strayed far too close to the edge there. My conscious mind focused on something else to distract myself. The man isn't turning. It was true. He was still a human. I could feel it through the blood connection. But still, there I could detect a note of potential. The man before me is close to becoming kin, my instincts whispered. And I knew it. Too much of his old blood remained. Too little of mine replaced it. I shuddered. When I had myself under better control, I all but fled the infirmary after putting on another performance. I'd yelled some more, then stumbled out and told the guards to do whatever they wanted with the stupid traitor who wouldn't listen to my orders. With that, I drunkenly staggered back to my room. My mind was spinning with various thoughts. Sitting on my bed in the dark, my mind is still buzzing. I knew how to turn people into vampires now. Drain their blood, replace it with mine. Simple in concept. Feeding by itself didn't seem to affect them beyond blood loss. I'd also managed not to kill someone, barely. The man's heart was still beating weakly in the infirmary. More importantly, I felt full. Content. Warm. The amount was surprisingly small, maybe a liter or so. Only now did I realize how cold I'd been when hungry. I checked my reflection in a mirror shard. No longer transparent at all. When starved, I become less corporeal, lower temperature, less heartbeat, maybe even stop breathing. Reflecting less in mirrors fits that pattern. Could be useful for stealth if I didn't also look like a walking corpse. For now, I'd have to stay well-fed and as human as vampire-y possible. Mia's heartbeat approaches. I knock softly. Enter. Are you okay? She asks quietly. I'm fine. Never mind. I get it. She comes in with the lamp. After a minute of awkward silence. So, how did it go? Good news and bad news. Bad news first, the man in the infirmary is likely never going to wake up. Lars' strike damaged his brain beyond recovery. Without magic he won't receive. Mia glares. Did you do something to him? He was already like that. The good news, I figured out how turning works. Just biting won't do it. And I'm feeling nice and full right now from a surprisingly small amount of blood. The man is technically still alive. Feeding isn't necessarily lethal. How do you know about the turning? It's an instinct. Not a drive to do it. More like knowing how to breathe. It's guidance, not compulsion. And it costs me something, so it's not a threat to you. Fine. Anything else? My saliva seems to have mild healing properties. Worked on small cuts from the chicken. Didn't leave a trace. Should help with not leaving visible signs of feeding. I bid you a good night, Lord Steelheart. Mia does a shallow curtsy. Actually, can you bring me food? Ham, sausage, cheese, bread, water. I'm trying to catch a rat. The night would get boring with nothing to do. A rat? There are rats in the manor? Also, do you not sleep? Yes and yes. I don't sleep. And there are rats, both literal and metaphorical. Mia leaves looking uncomfortable. She stops a few times on the way to the kitchen, checking for rats. She stays longer than expected. Comes back smelling of alcohol, cheeks flushed, slurring. Tells me not to enter her room or she'll hit me, then nearly falls over nodding. I track her to bed. She's tossing and turning, heart still anxious. The alcohol calmed her nerves, but not all the way. I had an idle thought. What if I drink the blood of a drunk person? Would I get drunk? Probably not from normal feeding, but if I directly assimilated the blood. Something to keep in mind. If blood carries alcohol, it probably carries other drugs and potions too. Way too many unknowns. My tangent had stalled me long enough. Everyone who would be going to bed had done so by now. The only people still moving about were the regular guard patrols. Even those were a little diminished due to the recent situation. It was the perfect time to try and catch some rats. Catching rats wasn't simple. Even with my ability to sense their exact locations, that didn't help if they were underneath the floor. I couldn't exactly punch through wooden planks. It'd be loud, leave an obvious hole, and probably kill the rat with wood shrapnel. So I had to lure them out. My heart detection couldn't tell me where the tunnel entrances were, so I sat motionless for a while, tracking dozens of little hearts. They were nocturnal, moving around more now that the sun had set. Several spots where multiple rats converged were probably dens. Some ventured above ground, but only in the gardens outside the manor. For now, I was going to try tracking outside. But first, I'd need to stop looking like a ghost that would stand out even in the dark. To that end, I put on long-sleeved dark clothes and a hooded cloak. Kalen apparently didn't own a simple black cloak, so the one I was wearing was a very dark red. Actually, now that I considered it some more, Most of Kalen's clothes were probably still in his usual living quarters on the outlying tower's second floor. The clothes in this room might be more intended as a backup in case he decided to stay in the manor proper for some reason. Not that that ever happened. Very rare cases like demonic rituals happening in the study above the tower bedroom didn't count. Anyway, wearing my cloak that looked just a bit too much like blood not to amuse me, I opened the window. It was properly dark outside, with the sun set and neither Nocton nor Regis visible in the sky. Clouds covered most of the stars, reducing the light level even more. I was fairly certain I'd be stumbling around blindly in the brush without my new night vision. No amount of low-light adaptation of human eyes could see with zero light. I could see just fine. It was even comfortable on the eyes, compared to all the stinging light sources others needed so as not to trip over their own feet. Even the magical lamp, turned to the lowest acceptable level, was still not pleasant. As I slipped outside, I marveled at how agile I felt. The window was large, so I fit through it without issue, but it was still raised off the floor inside and a little higher outside. I managed to climb onto the windowsill and drop to the ground with barely a sound, not to mention any effort. The next order of business was avoiding notice. Even if it meant I didn't succeed at my rat catching, I couldn't afford to be spotted by any of the patrols. Most guards didn't walk the garden, but there were still some. Before leaving my room, I'd counted 4 pairs moving around out here. A quick check confirmed the number to still be accurate. None of the groups were nearby, which was why I picked right now to leave. I left the window open only a slit, so as to avoid anyone wandering by and seeing the empty room beyond, while still allowing myself to return inside. It was dark both in and outside, but the guards had lanterns. With my camouflage complete, I held my bundle of food and headed deeper into the garden. My goal was one of the rats moving around above ground level. The gardens were more like a small forest, tangled underbrush everywhere. I slipped through the vegetation, crossed the gravel patrol path during a gap between rounds, and pushed deeper into the overgrown greenery. The guards' lanterns were a joke. They ruined any night vision they might have had and could barely see past a few meters. I could have lain down in the bushes and they'd have walked right past me. Security standards here were atrocious. Mia's heartbeat had finally calmed to a regular rhythm. She'd fallen asleep. Good. Passing through the dense underbrush was annoying, branches grabbing at my cloak every other step, but I was closing in on my quarry. The rat I was tracking moved around ahead of me, only a few meters from my position now. As I got closer, I got an idea why it stayed in the area. My nose picked up faint sweet, fruity notes. They were mixed with a mild fermenting odor. After convincing another human-sized tree that it wouldn't win in a contest of strength, I saw the cause of the smells. A small, almost clearing held a large tree. The dense canopy overhead shaded the area enough to inhibit most large plants from growing near it. Numerous fruit hung from its branches. They looked quite similar to apples at a glance. More interesting to the rat were the large number of overripe, fallen fruit scattered about. In fact, I could see glimpses of my prey flitting about in the tall grass. It was quite large compared to what I thought when hearing the word rat. Even though the animal's nose was obviously overwhelmed by the smell of food, its ears worked just fine. As I stepped a little closer, the little creature paused at the rustling of leaves. There was some wind blowing, so the sound by itself wasn't that unusual. I'd also counted on that fact to cover for me. Unfortunately for me, the rat's senses or intuition were stronger than I'd expected. It stood up on its hind legs to get a better view. As soon as its eyes landed on me, even half obscured by foliage as I was, the rat bolted. I rushed forward a few steps, but there was no chance of me catching such a small, slippery creature. Not to mention the thing was fast, too. Meanwhile, while I was probably faster if I really put my all into it, my new body was still unfamiliar to me. The strengthened physique worked against my coordination. Needless to say, the rat was long gone before I even got close. Based on its position, it hadn't even bothered to truly run away. The little critter was just sitting in the bushes, a few meters away from the clearing. I had to admit that stung my pride a little. A vampire, dreadful predator of the night, was given the slip by a small rodent. and said rodent was confident enough in its ability to escape that it didn't even run all that far away from all the tasty fruit on the ground. Worst of all, it was correct. That part stung the most. Time to try something else. I cleared a small area of fruit and sat down. Then I unpacked my bundle of food, spreading it out on the cloth it had been wrapped in. I could hear the rat's heart beat just a little faster. Smiling, I picked up a small piece of cheese and ate it, followed by a cut of ham and a chunk of bread. Then, I flicked another piece of ham in the direction the rat was hiding in. It sailed through the air, landing near the clearing's edge. Nothing happened for a long while, so I resumed slowly eating. When I appeared sufficiently distracted, a gray blur sped out from the greenery, grabbed the ham and disappeared again. So it is willing to grab food even when I'm nearby. This rat really isn't all that scared of me, is it? With a smooth motion, a piece of cheese landed near where the ham had been. This time it was a bit closer to me. To avoid running out of food too fast, I picked up one of the apple-like fruit nearby that looked to be in good condition. After inspecting it a little, I bit into it. Just as the smell had indicated, the fruit was sweet. Despite its appearance and tough skin resembling an apple, the soft consistency and taste reminded me more of a peach or nectarine. Sweet with just the right amount of sourness to balance it out. Juice dribbled down my chin and stained my clothes as I chewed. In a more apple-adjacent feature, the fruit center didn't have a single large pit, but instead held a more tough section of flesh with numerous small seeds in the center. What a waste for a tree like this to be forgotten and neglected, I mused, looking at the seedy core left in my hand. I licked my lips. I'm definitely going to have this area be reclaimed. The rat decided I was sufficiently distracted to grab the cheese. I didn't react. Instead, I reached for another fruit lying nearby. Unfortunately, this one had started to rot on the underside. With a sad shake of my head, I tossed it away and picked up another. This one was still in good shape. As I devoured my second peach apple, I almost accidentally tossed a piece of smoked sausage in the rat's direction. This one landed at the halfway point between us. When I was almost done enjoying my snack, the rat rushed for the morsel. As it reached the food, I looked at it. Crimson eyes met beady black ones. The rat froze in place. I smiled, extending an arm holding a piece of bread towards it. The little thing's heart relaxed as it took a few steps towards me. Our eyes were still locked together. One little step at a time, my quarry walked closer. A small part of me was confused why it did that, but the rest of me knew this was as it should be. My influence on the rat was strong. My eyes were starting to sting a little. I'd kept them open for an unusually long time already. As I reached out to touch the rat, it staggered a little as though drunk. I blinked. The pain in my eyes abated a bit. The rat paused, confused. It turned its head back and forth, taking in the surroundings. Then I watched the poor thing flinch so hard in shock, it almost looked to be trying to escape from its skin. It raced to get away. Unfortunately for the rat, at this point I already basically held it in my hand. It almost wriggled its way out, but I reconfirmed my grip. What the hell just happened? I stared at the rodent struggling fiercely against its imprisonment. The answer was sort of obvious on reflection. My instincts had already given it to me. I had exerted some kind of mental influence on this rat that made it not see me as a threat and approach. Eye contact was apparently required for it to work. Is this like a vampire's charming gaze? The concept was common in fictional vampires on Earth, so I was familiar with it. I just hadn't expected this to be how I found out about it. Setting such considerations to the side for now, I focused on the panicked rat caught in my grasp. It was scratching at my fingers, trying to make me let go. Its mouth couldn't quite reach, or I would have definitely been bitten as well. Turning the creature to face me, I fixed it in my gaze again. It took nearly a minute, but eventually I felt that same sensation of influence again. The rat calmed down, now hanging limply in my grip. With the piece of bread still held in my other hand, I wiped up the drops of blood from the already healed scratches. Then I offered it to the rat. It was a little cute, watching the rodent nibble away at a chunk of bread nearly the size of its own head. I took the moment to inspect my catch a bit closer once I felt the blood bond form. As I'd already discovered earlier, this was a large creature for a rat. I'd almost say it'd give a small chihuahua a run for its money in terms of size. Its entire body, without including the tail, was slightly shorter than my forearm. The tail was about as long again. It also wasn't a slim animal, though I could only vaguely estimate its weight. Still, I'd be surprised if this individual was lighter than a kilogram or two. This was the kind of rat a cat would have to be careful of. I idly wondered whether this was a normal size for a rat in this world, or if there's some other factor like abundant nutrition at play. Maybe both. There were some scars on its body, but otherwise I didn't see any signs of disease or injury. It was also unexpectedly clean, though I might remember snippets about rats cleaning themselves and others in their group. Even though I wasn't exerting influence over it anymore, the rat hadn't resumed its earlier panic. Instead, it was calmly finishing up the last bit of bread. As the blood connection was solidifying, I could get glimpses of the creature's mind. There was surprisingly a lot going on there. Well, to be fair, my only comparisons so far were a chicken and a probably brain-dead human, neither of which was strong competition. The rat was wondering why he was so scared just a bit earlier. He was feeling quite comfortable being held now. There was a closeness to me, my touch was relaxing. I scratched his head. The way the rat leaned into my fingers was surprisingly endearing, especially since I could also feel just how pleasant he found it. When I set my new rat, friend, pet, familiar, down, he curled himself up in my lap and gazed up at me. I could almost swear he was making puppy dog eyes at me. With a chuckle, I scratched his belly, then fed him another small piece of ham. Hey buddy, do you want to help me with some experiments? I got an enthusiastic squeak in return. The little guy was surprisingly intelligent, especially with the bond allowing me to send him concepts. Obviously, he didn't actually understand what I'd said, but was willing to help me. Actually, a thought came unbidden to my mind. Why did I need to lure him over here in the first place? I could have just put some of my blood on a piece of food and then tossed that over. Resisting the urge to facepalm, I instead turned my attention towards more productive avenues. Let's try to be less of an idiot in future, all right? The happy squeak really didn't fit as an answer, but I chuckled nonetheless. Yeah, you don't really get what I just said. Well, on to testing.